including the meeting that we just held.
Okay.
Are we live now?
Yep, good luck.
Okay, thank you. As I was saying, the attorney-client session has concluded, and if there's any motion that wants to be made on the board as far as a counteroffer to the settlement offer received, it would be obtained now.
I would make a motion that we make a counter offer to them for $30,000.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I'll take it, just a motion to adjourn the closed session, and then we'll resume.
Motion to adjourn the session.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, we'll resume at 9:30.
Thanks. We convened at
9:30, let's get the party started. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Today is March the 21st. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District. All members of the board are here this morning. In addition, staff, myself, and Mr. Carter, Mr. Lombardo is here as well. Today's meeting was properly noticed. A copy of the affidavits on file at the district's office at 5672 Strand Court. That takes us down to the approval of the agenda today, Mr. Chairman. I have no additions.
Did we move Matt up on this?
Yeah, we will, as a matter of course, allow our utility contractor to make his report right after the approval of the minutes, just to get him back to work.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Under public comment today, I have four. First will be Mr. Franco. If you don't mind, come forward and just stand center so that people who are participating by Zoom and give us your name as all of our minutes are transcribed.
My name is Peter Franco. I live at 285 Case Drive, which is just across the street here. We've had our unit in that condominium building, the first one on the right-hand side on Case Drive, for 22 years. We bought it when the building was under construction. I'm here to express our concern about the empty lot across the street from that first building. It's zoned commercial, and apparently I'm told it is available for sale. And there's no telling what might go in there. Our concern is that there should be some effort to control what happens there. And so I'm asking the CID board to consider the possibility of purchasing that land, which is now available for sale, in order to control its future development and have some say in what happens. We don't want a gas station and a used car lot there, and that presumably could happen under the present circumstances. So for the sake of the community then, I'm making this request and ask that you consider it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Our second speaker today is Ken Rigott, R-I-G-G-O-T-T. Morning, Ken. Following Ken, I can't read the next one, but it's also 285 Case Drive. So Ken, if you would, please.
Is there a microphone for him? Can't hear for it.
There will be. Stand by.
I don't have a microphone. Okay. I don't know what the other person said either.
Talk loud.
It's not shut down.
Go ahead, Ken. We need your name and
My name
address.
is
Go ahead.
Ken Riggett. I live in the first condo building as you go into Case Drive. I've been there over 20 years now. I've been fortunate when I come out my front door in the morning to see this whole big open field. I can see clear to the highway. There's deer, all kinds of Everglades wildlife there. And it's been very nice. I would hate to see that go away and see the backside of some commercial business that didn't give a whit about how the rest of us who live in the neighborhood feel. So Therefore, I'd like to have my voice to those who say I think the CID should consider buying this property, to give them the option, if they become sellers or developers, they would have a greater voice in whatever developed there. And I'm sure they would have more consideration for the residents who live in the area than some business that makes money. And I urge the board to consider purchasing this property and keeping control. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another resident from 285 Kings Drive.
Steve, we're getting feedback here, bad.
Shut it off.
Sir.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Juan J. Castro. I live on 285 K Drive, 2303. And I agree with my fellow neighbors. We said you should take control of the land and help us to keep it the way it is. And, you know, we have some wildlife there, and we are concerned with the wildlife, which we enjoy very much. And would like you to take care of it. Thank you much.
Thanks for coming to the meeting.
Appreciate that. And then Mr. Gunther, Steve Gunther, will be your final public speaker as we had registered.
Good morning, Steve Gunther, Orchid Cove. What I came to talk to you guys about today is the restoration project on the canal filling in. The lady said it wouldn't be complete till 2026. I was up there personally. All 4 canals are blocked right now. I don't know when it happened, but it's been blocked for quite some time down at the 128th Avenue, the lowest parallel road, east-west road. The Miller Canal is blocked. It's being backfilled like all the others. The Merritt Canal is completely backfilled all the way down to where it dead ends into the horizontal. But the Miller is about 2/3 of the way down to about 104th Avenue. Okay. I would like you guys to get Southwest Florida water management out here, if you could. I'd like to get the history over the last 10 years of how the water levels, because I know they keep all this data on both sides of the weir, and the salinity. As of the last few days, there's no water going over the weir. The water level's dropping, and there's a lot of salt water when the tides come up, but it's flowing back in. The other request I would make to them would be, there's a east-west canal that takes you from the Miller over to where the T is. It's my understanding their project is to fill it to the T, completely take that east-west canal, and I would ask that they leave that east-west canal so we have a little bit bigger body of water for a couple of years to see how bad this is going to get. Because clearly, over the last 10 years, the aquatic environment has changed significantly, as expected, because of the lack of fresh water coming down here through the canal and everything. But that's my request, is if you could get Southwest Water, ideally by the April meeting, because I think there's urgency to get this, try to work with them and have them work with Army Corps of Engineers to, you know, they can go ahead and fill the north-south canals, but just leave the east-west if they could, with what remains in east-west. Is that clear?
Yes. And do you have any input on that?
I can go a little further than that with it. Janet Starnes was the representative from South Florida Water Management that came down here, did the town hall meetings, which some of you probably were at, right here in this building, right here, prior to the beginning of the management mitigation project down the canal. She talked at both meetings about the reduction of flows that would create, that during the winter months there would be little or no water coming over. So that they're very aware of it, but I agree with Steve, it doesn't hurt to try to do something at this point, but it's in their plans, so we can try. we can talk to South Florida and see what they say, but.
It's been my impression that South Water, or Florida South Water, really doesn't care how much water we have here. They just assume we dried up and moved away.
Or flood us out.
Or flood us out, either way. Yeah. Somebody spoke to them once before and they brought that up about, you know, the place running out of water and whatnot, and their response was, so what? So we got a long hill to climb.
I'm gonna jump ahead here because we're kind of on a subject. The board looks at a lot of different things. We recognize a few projects that we got going on, or at least challenges that we have to our community. And I was gonna do this later in the meeting, but it kind of goes together with this. We have issues with the restoration project because it brings more water during the wet months, mostly is where we see it. It brings increased water tables, it brings bigger flows, and we've been fighting with the Corps of Engineers. We've been at numerous meetings with them to do something about that. And they're not. All right, it's just the way it is. So as those pumps run and push all the water through the land during the wet season, we get more water here. So they're out on the well grade road that goes out to our wells. They're out there with big equipment. And the Parks Department is doing that because it's all state parkland out there. They're taking out berms and they're making the water flow better towards 41. And they think that that's going to help us. It may. I don't know how much it will, but since Hurricane Ian, we have a lot of projects because we had a lot of damage from Hurricane Ian with the floods. And we lost our generators, it flooded some of our well stuff, it took out the road, it just created a lot of projects, and we're working on grant funds to reduce some of that. We did get grant funds for part of it already. So that's one of our projects that the board and the CID here looks at, is that kind of thing going on. Another one is some contamination things. We have testing people coming in, testing for mercury, or lead and arsenic in one of our test wells by the plant. We're under order by the DEP to do some further testing on some of that, and we'll be doing that over the next month or so. We'll have a source coming out to do some testing and see what kind of problem we have out there. With the lead and arsenic. We have 118 liveaboard boats now in the marina over here, and we were just talking about that before the meeting, that it was a funny thing, about 2 weeks ago we got a little rain. It rained for like 5 minutes, but there were pretty big drops, and it created foam on the water, and I took pictures of it. It looks like snow on the water, that raindrops can create foam that doesn't go away. How often have you seen that? You don't, right? Because that's contaminants in the water. Those 118 liveaboard boats can dump their gray water, not their black water, not their toilets, but anything other than their toilets can get dumped right in the canal. They live in those boats, they dump all their gray water, their sink waters, their showers, their tubs, any gray water they have on the boat. It's not supposed to include laundry, but it does. So that gets dumped in the canal here, and we are polluting our basin because it ties into the water flow that Steve was talking about a little bit. As the water comes down, we used to get I called it a flush. All right, we have enough water coming down that if we did get contaminants in our basin here with the marina, it gets washed out. We don't have that anymore. All right, with the canals closed and they're pushing all the water through the land, we don't get a flush here anymore. We are a dead end tidal flow tributary, right? So the water comes in and it goes out, and it doesn't change our water here anymore. During the wet season, it will. During the summer months, we'll get enough water coming over the weir to flush some of that out. But through the winter months, we're not going to get a flush anymore. So we have foam. I took pictures. I have several pictures I took by the docks. There's foam builds up against the docks now, right across from the marina. We have, when it rains, you get foam on the water. those are all signs that we're getting pollution here in our basin because we're not gonna have that flush. So now we have to take a better look at controlling the pollution. And I think that the boats, having 118 liveaboard boats in that small marina is not where we should be at, all right? We have it, we have to deal with it, but we're really gonna have to look into that. So there's a lot of things in the community here that need some attention. And any of you that wanna get involved in any of that, by all means. Talk to the board members, make your phone calls to South Florida Water Management if you have an issue. The more that call and create a stir, the more response we get. So those kind of things that we're looking at for our community, there's a lot going on. It doesn't mean that our community is going to heck. I think this is a great place, and I plan to be around here for a long time, and I think we just gotta look out for the future here and make sure we keep it cleaned up. So, those are some of the things going on. I just wanted to mention at the meeting and let you know that behind the scenes stuff that you don't hear too much about.
Is there any way this alarm can get shut off?
Why, is it beeping or something?
Yeah.
No, I can't hear you.
Too many sirens in my life. I can't hear that.
Yeah.
Steve?
If you pull the door all the way to, it'll stop.
But the door won't stay closed.
Yeah, I know.
I'll get.
With that, Mr. Chairman, that takes us down to 2 sets of minutes. The first were your regular minutes from last month's meeting. It occurred on the 21st of February, they're behind the next tab.
Has anybody got any changes to these minutes from February 25th?
No.
Attorney?
Two different motions in, motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 21st meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then conversely, there's the workshop that had to do with the presentation of the utility rate study, a separate set of minutes, need a separate motion.
Anybody have any issues on that? Make a motion to approve those.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. That takes us down, Matt, to the utility operations report for the month of February. We're down to item 6A. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys? All right, Matt with Florida Utility Solutions, here to give you a monthly report. Operations at the facilities throughout the month were in accordance with contract and regulatory requirements. Sorry, I lost my voice. I was sick last weekend and it's still coming back. So. All wastewater plant requirements were met. All water distribution requirements were met. Reuse pump system functioned as intended. Pump station on canal still operating on 2 pumps and not communicating. The wastewater treatment plant received 2.28 million gallons of wastewater in February. We produced and distributed 3.77 million gallons in February from the water treatment plant. And we distributed 8.43 million gallons of reused water in February. We read 860 meters. We checked 9 auto flushers to make sure they're working correctly, reprogrammed one of them. We did 4 rereads, and we used 870 gallons of chlorine. We inspected all pump stations weekly, performed odor control checks. The new filter for the plant got delivered week before last week. I don't remember for sure. That's at the plant in the crate, so plan is to get it installed as soon as possible. So, but at least it's finally here. So we'll start building the platform and everything and getting it ready, installing it. A few of the maintenance items we did this past month were clean. We cleaned the analyzers. There was just, lines, there were small lines that clog over time.
You have a new analyzer on there for the SCADA?
Yeah.
What is that?
So there was an old one at the transfer tank which is the chlorine contact tank between the water plant and the storage tank. Everything coming out of the plant goes in there, and it gives time for everything to mix, chlorine and everything, and then it gets pumped from there into the storage tank. There's an analyzer there, an old one that wasn't working, so we replaced it, and then we tied it into the SCADA and the inside the plant. So that way we can see what we're putting into the tank instead of waiting to see
Comes out.
what's coming out. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
We installed a new antenna on top of the plant because we were having some intermittent communication issues. We put a taller one on there. We replaced some sample taps. We cleared some vegetation around the monitoring wells. That was one of the things that the DEP likes to see whenever they do an inspection. We replaced the belts on the blowers. Installed 2 new panels on lift stations here at K's and Newport Drive.
Does that take care of now, all our lift stations that are SCADA controlled?
I believe that maybe the one on Stella Maris is not SCADA controlled, but the main ones are.
I thought on Stella Maris, we were SCADA after the hurricane.
I know that there is a communication system in there. Some of them are on the old communication system still, and some of them are on the new SCADA. So I'll double check.
Okay.
And we repaired some backflow leaks and did some leak detection.
And at this time, we have to get those retention ponds cleaned, get the trees out of them, get them mowed.
That didn't happen?
Not yet.
Again, didn't happen.
Did you have a chance to talk to him, Kevin? To Robert?
On,
Cleaning that?
yeah, he said they were gonna take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's trees in there that are probably this tall.
Oh, they're like 12, 15
Well,
feet.
yeah, and they have to, they were supposed to be, yeah, but that means that we paid them last year to do it, and the trees are still there, and we paid them this year and they haven't been done. So I think Robert owes us some money. Because we have a special contract, right? There's special pricing in that to do those retainment ponds, retention ponds.
It's in the contract, right?
Yeah. And if he's not gonna do them, we should retain him. So we have to take care of that.
Kevin, do you still want to handle that?
Yes, I will.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll make a note. If it was not done in the prior year, then I would suggest that we get a credit note
Okay.
from him to
Thank you.
apply towards our next month's insurance.
And the issue now is, anytime you have a retention pond, if the trees grow in the berms of the retention pond, your berms are no good because the roots create channels for the water to just go right through the berm.
Yeah, I presume they're willow trees or something like that.
Yeah, there's some pretty big ones on the backside of that one berm.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's the little retention areas around the plant which are overgrown, and then the large reject pond out back. So it's
The
both.
reject pond has trees about this big on it,
Yeah,
right in the middle of it.
yeah.
So
So
they're not getting down, that's the point.
definitely.
One other thing too is we had some covers off, especially like on Newport Drive on some of the valves.
Okay.
I don't believe they got replaced yet.
The valve covers or the
Valve
meter
covers.
box cover?
Well, I don't know which is which, those little rectangles.
Okay, yeah. Those
Yeah,
are the
there's a
meter
few of
box.
them, or there's at least one that I know of I saw yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And also that concrete lid that was slid off by the. It's still slid off. It's still slid off? We still need to have that done.
Where's that?
Now, I don't know if that's something you do or if Robert do it.
I mean, we can do it, but
Where is it?
I don't know.
It's on Newport, right?
You have a
Fire
backhoe,
station.
don't you?
Yeah, we have all kinds of stuff.
I'm just wondering, rather than having Robert bring a piece of equipment in, if they've got something to push it over.
Yeah, it's by the fire station.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
And I don't know exactly which one.
It's in by the marina there. There's a big concrete culvert,
Mhm.
and on top of that, there's normally a lid about this high, and it's been slid off.
Okay.
And it's been there since I've lived here, but it makes a spot for somebody in the dark to come and fall in.
Sure.
So when they're in here stealing, we want to make sure that they don't get hurt.
Yeah, we can have one of the guys with the crane truck or something just
Perfect.
push it back.
Appreciate that.
Is it a meter vault or?
No, it's a
FPL?
drainage, it's a drainage.
Junction vault, it's drainage?
Yeah, it's a big drainage.
Public
I
driveways
have to
or
really
just
look at it.
drainage?
I think
it's-
Yeah.
You need to deal with a couple
I'll
private
get
ones.
it.
Seriously.
Okay, we'll take a look at it before.
What do you guys want to send me a location? I'll do it.
Okay,
Got
We'll
this
see if we
It's the high rise.
can move it with a couple of pry bars, just move it back on before you hire a crane to come and.
It's about 2 by 2, and I'd say it's 6 inches thick.
Okay,
Oh, we can lift.
well, just our regular service trucks. That
Yeah,
won't-
we can move that.
all right. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
Thanks for
So,
fixing my beats.
Now, just to be clear for everybody in here, everything at that water treatment plant is up to date, new, that everything needs to be done except getting that filter in? We're good?
Yep.
All right.
Probably the biggest thing right now, that disc filter that just came in, we paid for that a while ago. Part of the biggest thing with that, right, is that it gives us some redundancy. So before we had sand filters, and if they go down in a hurricane when we get extra flow because we get water intrusion into the sewer system and things, the sand filters get plugged up. It takes 3 to 4 days to pull all the sand. You gotta get a back truck, clean out all the sand, scrub it, haul in new sand and all this thing. It takes 3 to 4 days. That shuts our system down. Now we have a disc filter that can be cleaned in no time. And it's redundant. It is like the best thing we could have to keep our plant running all the time, that we don't have a chance that we have to shut down in a really bad timing to change out that sand filter. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, it made things way better. This one of the improvements that have been done with the water plant.
Yep, wastewater.
Yeah.
Is Mitch and family still good?
Yeah, he's with Denise there, and she's doing her 2-year follow-up for her cancer treatment, so.
Good.
So far, everything's good.
Good. All right, glad to hear it. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Wait a minute, no, last time I asked you to do the water sample at the marina,
Mm-hmm.
did we do it?
We don't have the results back yet.
We did do it, oh, okay,
Yes.
all right. And then the other thing was, I guess there's some person that doesn't know what they're talking about our arsenic
Quality
levels.
of water.
Quality of our water.
Our drinking
next
water?
door.
Oh, I'll address that.
Oh, okay, well, I just figured he,
Yes. So, next door, someone put on there that they went to the county and got test results of our different contaminants that in there and what their levels were and what the acceptable levels were, and posted that online. Just for an example, the first one, I don't remember what the chemical was, the cadmium. It said we had a 1.000 parts per billion concentration. The acceptable level was 5.6 something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't realize what a decimal point was, so they thought that meant we have 1,000 parts per billion instead of, so, and they went right down the list and posted about everything that we're doing in here is potentially harmful. And Joe finally posted online there that, you know what, read the numbers correctly, and the post was just taken down, but it was left out there for the public. Now, what's going on with this is, we've got people in here who are putting stuff out on Nextdoor that are hurting this community. The person who posted this is trying to sell her condominium. Does she not realize that if people are looking at buying here and they see these kinds of reports out there, are hurting the entire community? I mean, why would somebody not, first of all, why wouldn't they first have called the management company or called a board member to discuss this rather than going on to Nextdoor and inciting the people to believe that their water is dangerous to drink? It makes no sense. And to tell you the truth, if it continues, I think we should litigate against them because you are damaging your neighbor's property values. I know people in here who've told me they went and put extra reverse osmosis in their homes because they're scared to drink our water because of this nonsense that's coming out on Nextdoor. So just be forewarned. In the future, your names are going to be brought out in public, and we're going to look into taking legal action against you because this is nonsense. I know there's people here who just want to make this board look bad, and I think that's what their motivation is, but you're not hurting us. You're hurting everybody. So please stop it.
Matt, our water plant, can you tell the folks here how our water plant stacks up against a lot of the other ones that are around here?
Sure. A couple of our operators that work here also work for Bonita Springs Utilities. They run a really massive water plant.
You
And
guys hear this back there?
our water plant, a couple of our operators work for Bonita Springs Utilities, and they run a really big water plant. And they do nanofiltration like we have here, and they also do the old school lime softening. And both of them will tell you the water we make here feeds Bonita Springs Utilities into the ground. Like, our water is great here. We have the right equipment, it's all working well, it's monitored, sampled 6 ways to Sunday, and if there was any problems with the water, the DEP would be all over us. I mean, we make really, really high quality water here. Like, I'm not, some of the big places where they do fluoride and stuff like that, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff here. Like, it's really good, clean water, it's got the right amount of minerals, it's not too high, not too low. Like, you guys, if I was gonna drink city water, this is where I'd want to drink it from.
How's that sound?
So I just ask, let's stop this nonsense. This isn't the first time it's happened, but it's going to end.
This is America, and people have a constitutional right to their opinion and freedom of speech, but not if it threatens the public health and welfare. Just like you can't scream fire in a movie theater, you can't make deliberately misleading claims in a public forum as it affects, public health matters. If we know who some of these individuals are, I'd be happy, as a courtesy, to give them a call and just say, the district takes its water quality very, very seriously. And in fact, the claims that you're making have nothing to do with the potable water. They're a random monitoring well that there's just no correlation between that well and the finished water that we're producing there. So if we're aware of who some of these individuals are, I'm more than happy to contact them and tell them the truth.
I know who they are.
Okay, I'll see you after the meeting, and we'll get.
I don't want to call people out by name.
No, not in this forum, but I'm happy to call them off channel and say, hey, you're heading down the wrong road here, because you run the risk of us seeking an injunction against you for making deliberately misleading claims that affect the public health and the drinking supply.
And it's not fair to these guys who are doing such a great job.
Tell them to worry about jet contrails or something.
Yeah, we can move southwest.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a good day.
I have one related utility item, and it's in the backup for the next page. It starts with Schedule A, and it says 6A on it. Mr. Truckee, last month, asked a question. Keep flipping, Dan, behind the blue tab, right there. His concern involved the equivalency factor and the number of units that we are assigning to different size meters. And I thought it was an interesting question. So I did some further research and looked at what was Schedule A and some exhibits in that. And if you'll turn over to page 15, it's like 3 pages in. At the bottom of the page, based off of the equivalency factors that they used and utility standards, we're a little short, but not much. Dan's example that he cited at the workshop was, in his opinion, a 2-inch meter could conceivably provide water to more than 8 residential units, a large compound meter like that. So I've requested some additional backup information from Muni Billing or from Raptalis, who did the story, to tell me, like, for example, so how many 2-inch meters are there in this community? So if we want to tweak that, I just wanted you to know that this is what I have found preliminarily. The difference between the way that we're billing now and the way that we have proposed to bill, there's a difference of about 12 ERCs based off of the factors that were applied into the rate study. And so let me just say in theory, if we were going to increase, for the large 2-inch compound meters, we were going to go from an ERC of 8 to 10, or an increase of 2, and there's 6 2-inch compound meters in this community, that would resolve the math issue, but I want to make sure there's a basis behind whatever it is we end up with. But we have some ongoing research that we're doing in that regard.
Okay, if we treated the couple of places, we have a large meter that serve quite a few different tax ID numbers, right? Because we're looking at tax ID numbers as to a meter charge.
Yeah, and it'd typically be in one of the multifamily communities where they've got a master meter. The condominium association has a wholesale or master meter type account. I just want to make sure that we can reconcile the math.
Right, but if we looked at breaking that down by the number of units that meter serves, right? Because the other option would be to make everyone have a meter. That's the other option to that. It's one or the other. Either we charge them for the number of units, or we make them put in meters for each one of the units. Mm-hmm. Right, so either way, your ERC number is going to go up where those master meters sit.
It would.
It would.
And
either way works.
Again, offhand, I don't know where these 2-inch meters are located, which condominium communities that they're serving, but we have that information. I just want you to know we're working on it.
Okay.
Good.
Like, for example, the product type in this neighborhood that we're in, I think it's what I would call coach home, or 4 units per building. I don't know what size the meter is. The standard meter for a single-family home is that small meter, the 5/8 inch meter. And so I'm just asked for an inventory of meters and where they're located so that we can do some of that.
Very good.
The next item that I have, this is also a follow-up item. I'm going to ask Kevin to help a little bit here. Kevin's been working with your civil engineer to address issues in this particular case along Venus Cay. Long history here. The district has reserved and has in its favor a rear yard drainage easement in which there is supposed to be a swale. Most of you are very familiar with this. The easement is wider in most cases than the land, or it goes out into the boat basin or the canal on the other side. So the county's contention is they want to establish a base point at which the easement would begin for purposes of constructing the required swale in conjunction with the master drainage plan for that neighborhood and this community. I don't really know why this is an issue, but I would say that if there is a violation at this particular address and we have done what we can do through the county engineers, then we should consider, if necessary, filing a complaint with the Code Enforcement Board and having a hearing to address any additional work that needs to take place. Annalise, this has kind of been your project. If I misstated anything, let's get it correct, and then Kevin can help.
Well, I don't know that there's a violation. The swale is out in the canal.
No, you can't build a swale in the canal, and so anything
easement.
Oh, the easement, I'm sorry, the easement.
Yeah.
The easement is out in the canal.
Yeah. Yeah, so difficult to make the transition. It doesn't meet the specifications of the South Florida permit, and it's really been a county issue to enforce that. And the county has come to us to get involved in some way, but whether it's modifying a South Florida permit, things like that, our engineer does not recommend that.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of where we left that.
Going forward, we need to establish what it is.
Yeah, what I think that I will do is I will ask Jared, who is our civil engineer with Johnson, to give us a little narrative that will become the development standard for situations like this and can be published on the website. And if the county's looking just for something to back them up as they go to enforce the master drainage plan for this rear yard situation, then that's what we'll need to do.
So my question is, if the easement is, off the property basically, and the county has given them the authority you know, to move forward with their building permits and all that sort of stuff, are we required to do something different? I mean, do we have to go in there and say, you got to put a swale in here? I mean, is that our job?
It shouldn't.
Well, it's not our easement.
So realistically, we would have no enforcement on that at all then. Okay? So let's just say then, for a hypothetical situation where, you know, we have those bunkers on the end where the overflow is supposed to go out of. And if you had a house on one side or the other of that, or down two things, and his swale is out in the canal, and so the water can't get past his property because he hasn't have to put in a swale. Is that something that we need to work with? Or do we do like, put in the little pipe through the wall, just like everybody else has been doing?
Oh, we can't do that.
Oh yeah, they've been doing it.
I know.
And it sounds to me like the county doesn't have a problem with that.
I think that we can't enforce that, but I think it's our duty to see to it that the county does. That's what I think. And I think if we have to go after the county for not making the proper decisions or putting the time in here, then we have to demand that the county does what they're supposed to do here. That's where I see the issue, is that the county walks through, it's when they looked at different things. They looked at Stelmar Salt. They walked through and said, okay, your 4-inch PVCs, since you put your sidewalk in, you know, you got rid of all your drainage and now it all goes over the seawall. And we put a new seawall in and the county comes in and says, you have to maintain all your drainage. And we had to put all our swales back in and run it through the collection boxes. How can that be fair across the board?
They need to.
Okay, so I do have a problem with the county and how they're enforcing their codes equilaterally in the community. And I think it's our duty to see to it that the county, it's one way or the other.
Have you not tried to make that happen?
I have.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
we've done that.
she's bumping her heads against the wall. And, you know, fortunately, there isn't a whole lot of these lots on the end anymore that are probably going to be affected by this. So I know there's a new house over there, and I went and looked at the drainage to it the other day, and it's not a big swale, but it's going to let water through, you know. So the intent is there. I know it would be great if we had a full swale there, but we don't. But I also don't see that it's going to stop the emergency overflow from happening either. So
As long as it works.
it works. But, and on the same token now, as long as we're on this subject, we still have that house of George Mess and, what's his neighbor's name? Gary.
Gary.
You know, that is still open after all these years.
Well, let me address that.
Okay,
We have 3 places that Kevin and I are working on. George Smith's is one. There's 2 easements for decking over the easement that we have for docks. So I'm hoping that in the next week that we have that all ironed out and the county's got their paperwork that we've submitted 3 times
Yeah, they can't find.
that they can't find.
but
So probably by the end of this week, we ought to have that all ironed out. And the other 2 signed and also
yeah, this is going on long enough. These guys
Yes.
need this off their plate.
Yeah, I've been to the county 3 times on George.
Yeah.
And handed them the paperwork. And then they can't find it. So.
Great, keep after it. Just get it off of there. That's all I got.
Next item. If I can, I wanted to back up to one previous thing here on the water rates. On page 17, you have an irrigation schedule that contains here for your tiers. That was one of the other things I mentioned at that last meeting, is that I thought we had to take a look at the tiers. Consumption blocks and charges per gallon. In tier 1, we have bi-monthly single-family residentials. We got 0 to 20,000 gallons is a tier 1. In multifamily, commercial, We have 0 to 10,000 gallons. All right, and then you jump to, after 10,000 gallons, you jump to tier 2, which is more expensive. I personally believe that residents in the community are residents in the community, and that due to that equilateral thing, that should all be on the same tier. I don't know why.
Regardless of whether they're multifamily or single family?
It says commercial multifamily housing, if you're using 0 to 20,000 gallons, it's tier 1 for anybody. I don't know why we differentiate multifamily from houses
I agree.
So the way it is now, multifamily's paying more?
more.
Yeah, I agree. We should
And
do that.
multifamily
doesn't
actually
make
has less yard space per unit than what a house does.
Yeah.
But yet the house has a cheaper rate. So I wasn't just going through, we're trying to go through and look at all the different ways we can make it fair across the board to everyone. And that's just one thing I picked up on that I thought we should change.
Okay, I'm going to make that note, and until or unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to prepare the tentative budget with an option that includes changing or removing the subsidy from the utility side. I'm going to calculate it if at the end of the day, I mean, the board makes a decision to keep the structure the same and subsidize the utility through the tax bill. But otherwise, we're moving forward based off of your discussions at workshops to at least submit a budget for you to consider that is based off of the new rate schedule that's proposed. And I'll true this up, and I'll continue to update the board on that equivalency thing that I just talked about.
No, I don't know where this is, but we spoke about changing the wastewater from 75% charge to 100% charge, and I suggested, I think that we should remain at the 75%. Did the rest of the board have opinions on that? And we should decide one way or the other on that.
I agree.
I agree.
75? 75?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Leave it with,
I
okay.
think right now, we're okay. We tried to equalize right with the non-ad valorem, and
Yeah.
we've done some things that have probably stabilized our dollar amounts for right now. I
Yeah.
don't know that we have to change that.
Yeah, because you pay twice as much as you do on potable water, so it's a pretty big hit. I don't think we need that.
So just so everybody knows, we're talking about, this is gonna come around, and last year we had some people that got upset about it. We've talked about this for a while now. It's getting to be April by, what is it, by June?
Yeah, the public hearing won't occur until July or August, but yeah, I'm marching down that road.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so everyone understands it, tell your neighbors if they have a problem. We are redoing the way we charge for water, all right? The county has gone a long time ago, the county has gone to a per gallon charge for water. We still have most of our gallon charges on our non-ad valorem. So every year in your taxes, you have, depends what you live in and things, but it's, let's call it around, it's $777 in ERC for the regular stuff, and the rest of it is the water, is utility charges. All right, so if you're paying $2,000 on your non-ad valorem taxes, when you look at your tax bill to the port, 777 is your O&M, that's your operations and maintenance for streets and all that kind of stuff. The rest of it is the utility. That's basically subsidizing your water bill. All right? We're gonna take that off. That's gonna go away, that part of it. And it's gonna be picked up in meter charges and per gallon charges. It's just a different way that all the communities pretty much that these guys take care of in the water plant, they've all gone that direction in the past, and we're still on the non-ad valorem charge where, right now your gallonage charge, your monthly water bill is what, 10, 20 bucks? Right, if you talk to most people, their monthly charge is 100. All right, so if you take the 700, let's say it's 2,000, you're taking that 700 off, it gives you $1,300. You're basically paying that for your water. So if you had a $100 a month water bill, and we took the $1,300 off your taxes, that's a wash, right? So when you see a $100 water bill, then you go, my water bill went from $10 to $100. Yes, but we're taking the non-ad valorem off your taxes that you automatically get charged. Okay, so you'll pay a meter fee. All the municipalities up north where I'm from, they all have it this way since I can remember. But you pay a meter fee, and then you pay your usage fee, and that'll make up your water bill for the month, or we get charged bi-monthly, but that'll make up your water bill. We are doing all that calculations and work to see if it comes out. That's what Neil was talking about before when he said that they're real close to the ERCs are matching up if we change over to the new one. We're trying to look at what everyone's cost will be under the new system versus the old system. And we're trying to make sure that we, cross our Ts and dot our Is on all this. So as this moves forward, now we're under deadlines that by July, we have to have this done if we're gonna do it. So we're doing it right now. So if somebody has a problem with any of it, you can come up and talk to us.
We really haven't made the decision to make that change yet as a board.
No, we are still going through all the background work to know what it's gonna look like. But by July, we have to make a decision whether we're gonna implement this or not, because we're mandated timelines to do changes. So as this comes around, last year we changed the general fund portion of it, the O&Ms, operations and maintenance part of it. And we had some people that said, well, we didn't know you were doing that. We didn't know that was coming up. That's what we did last year. This year, we're doing the way the water is billed. Okay, so if you're interested in that, if you have a problem with it, now's the time. Because when we make the decision in the next couple meetings, we have to make the decision. After that, it's too late. We're under time restraints. We can't change it. Right now, it's changeable. So if you have an issue, let us know.
So this is a fairer system. This is fair. The people that live here all year long and the people who live here in the summer or in the winter are basically subsidizing everybody else.
And
The old system.
with that said, I would encourage you all to go back to your HOAs and have a representative of your HOAs come to every meeting. It doesn't have to be the whole board, but at least have one come so that your interests are protected. You can bring us,
A representative.
Yeah, send a representative. I don't know how many HOAs in here. I was gonna start doing a count at the beginning of the meeting to, see who's represented, but we didn't get to that. So, when you go back to your HOA boards, please have someone from the board come to the meetings from now on so that you are fairly represented. Thank you.
The last staff report I have, at last month's meeting, I gave you a accounts receivable schedule for inactive accounts, houses that had been sold, where people had left, in some cases, an outstanding bill, where we had tenants. We applied the deposit against the bill. We wrote off a couple of them that were very old that we were going to pursue through collections. This month, I've given you the most recent and updated accounts receivable for active accounts. And actually, there's only $4,400 in receivables that are current for active accounts. Two of those represent over 60% of the total. The one that's going to be in trouble is the very first one, Port of the Islands Resort Condominium.
Where are you at in here? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, this is item 6C. There's blue tabs, and if you'll keep flipping tabs, it says past due customers, sort of sideways. Yeah. I'll let you find it.
Found it. Thank you.
So $4,400 in total of current receivables. That's really pretty good with a $2 million utility system. There are two, those that represent over 60% of that. Port of the Islands Resort Condo has been a chronic slow payer for whatever reason. I know in one previous case, we were working with their management company. Kevin says it's resort management or something, but we're getting ready to send them a final demand letter and shut-off notice.
Where is that? What building is that? What?
Is that
storm.
The condos, or is that the hotel?
It's the top line.
Where's the building?
Port, yes, good question. Port of the Islands Resort condo. Is that the little condos in back?
I think so.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, and they've been in a dispute with Tom, I believe, so I don't know
This is
how that's
that.
going on.
This is that.
That's that one.
Okay. Is there anybody from here that knows anything about that? Okay,
Those are those little 300 square foot
yeah,
Yeah,
places? They're all on 1 meter?
apparently.
I believe so, yeah. That's what we
This
talked
account
about
is.
before.
I know, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
as
Once
far as-
before, I shut off the water for an irrigation meter, and that's also.
that was for the hotel.
Correct, and they cured that. There
Yeah.
is an outstanding balance for like $2 or something, but this is the potable meter for that same location where the individual units have been condominiumized, and so there are investors other than the hotel.
What, the hubbub I've heard about it is that their condo association isn't getting paid their dues, and they're getting in trouble.
Well, I'm getting ready to send them a final notice and shut the water off.
I know, there's nothing we can do about that, but
I can't under the policies that I'm trying
I
to
know.
operate under, but of $4,400 in total receivables, a little over half of it is that one issue.
does anybody here live in one of those little condos?
But,
Okay,
but we have other I mean, Orchid Cove is condos. Each unit has its own meter. Why don't these have their own meters?
They don't.
They
This
just
is
don't.
one of the things we were talking about before, one of the larger meters that serves multiple tax ID numbers.
and we talked about putting meters on
I
each
know,
one
but
of
Tom,
these.
what's our goal here?
Well-
We gotta have, we can't just talk about it, we gotta decide what we're gonna do.
Part of the problem is with those condos is if you tried to put a meter in each one of them, it might be physically almost impossible to do because of how the construction is built. And it might really incur an undue burden on the condominium owners if we forced them to do that. So that's why we were talking about, well, let's do, make sure that there's a base rate for each one of them on that bill.
Okay, so is this one of those meters, is this a 2-inch pipe that's really supplying more than it should be?
Well, no,
It's supposed to
they're not,
get 8?
let's not call it more than they should be. Let's just say that it's a meter, it's a single meter that's serving numerous tax ID numbers. Right, because in houses or condos, every unit has a meter, okay, and it has a tax ID number. All those condos are tax ID numbers, they're separate parcels, all right, but they're served under one line. Rather than a 5/8 line, I think they have 2.
But I thought that was a discussion. If it's a 2-inch meter and it's only supposed to handle 8, and this one say it's handling 16,
Yes,
then you gotta double what the 2-inch meter charges.
yes.
Yes, Neil's looking at that.
That's what we're working.
That's what we're gonna
That's
do.
what Neil's
Yeah.
working on.
And that's what I was saying at that last meeting, like, and the marina is in the same position. And they came to us and said the same thing, that this is gonna be, they're gonna spend a huge amount of money on engineering to put meters on each dock, they'll have to change the pedestals and all that, and we decided, well, let's try to do this through a base rate and accomplish the same thing without forcing them to spend a bunch of money.
That's my question, can we do that? Because I mean, if you said a 2-inch handles 8, but we wanna
What we're gonna have
charge
to look at,
16.
since we're basing everything on a tax ID parcel, when we change the O&Ms, for instance, on
Right.
the boats and that thing, right? Each one of those boat slips is a tax ID number. Each one of these condos by the hotel has a tax ID number. All right, so it'll probably be done by tax ID numbers.
Okay, as long as there's no pushback on it, that's what I mean, I wanna make sure we're,
Well, that's
like you
what
said, you
we're
Oh,
want
there's
to
no
dot your i's.
pushback. They're used to getting a $176 bi-monthly bill, and all of a sudden they get a $400 bill. They're.
No, I don't mean that kind of pushback, I mean legal pushback. I don't want somebody coming up after saying we can't do that for.
Yeah, well, the
whatever
methodology
reason.
here is sound and is, in essence, the same methodology that's being utilized throughout Southwest Florida for this equivalency
Okay, I mean,
factor.
it's through tax IDs, that's fine. I just-
I have talked to Zach again too about, when Marina did his expansion, I remember reading a report where Scott was gonna have to buy another between 14 and 15 ERCs. And this goes clear back to Tony, and I asked if that had ever happened, and I've never gotten a reply to it.
Well, we've got this check stub for it, so.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I mean, I would like to know that he owns enough ERCs to be doing what he's doing. If not, we should clean that up, because that was part of his permit when he built the place. Now, from what I understand, I've talked to him before, and he said, well, I didn't create additional slips, but he expanded slips. So I don't know how all that works, but I would sure love to get to the bottom of it one way or the other.
But if we base everything, if everything goes off a base tax ID thing, right? You're gonna pick that up because he's got X amount of slips there. We charge him $777.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if he was supposed to have purchased another 15 ERCs, he's got some money to send to the port.
Yes.
Let me mention one other thing on this, just, if you look on the top of the second page of this report, this to me appears to be an active account that has been misclassified or should have been put in an inactive status. This was a unit 102 on Peacock Court, so this is going to be one of those multifamily type homes. There has been no recent payment history, so to me, this is a prior owner who did not pay their bill for some period of time in years past. This could be 2 or 3 years old. If I can determine that there is a new owner at this location, then I'm going to go ahead and treat this the same way that we did the inactive accounts that had balances. We're going to refer to collections. If I find out that there's something unusual here, like, you know, mom and dad went to assisted living, subsequently died, this is now in probate, and that's why nobody's paid, I'd flag that, because this is the only other material amount. It's $1,700 for that particular unit that is on Peacock Lane.
Okay.
And so, but otherwise, we went from, when we first got there, we had receivables of $80,000. We pretty much got them down to about $4,000 now, and
good.
System's working well.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but talk to me about that unit. I think which one it is. I think I have information that will help you.
Yeah, sometimes there's a unique story there.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, appreciate that.
It was the offline.
Right, one thing before we move on, we talked about this late dollar amounts at a meeting or two ago, and we talked about how we might be able to collect money or stop this from being on the books. Did we do anything with looking into not recording a new owner, you know, changing the name of the account to the new person? When someone leaves and they want the bill taken out of their name, put in a new name, that they have to clear the account before it can go into a new name?
Yeah, we have had an internal discussion in our office when we receive estoppels, that we will put that note on the estoppel, and we will tell the new owner that they can't open a new account until this account is made zero balance.
Very good.
Excellent. I think that'll clean up a lot of our issues.
We also, I've had a side conversation with Zach, that the next time when we go to adopt the new rate schedule, your current rates are published within your administrative rules of procedure. And if you amend those, he's got to run special notices in the newspaper. You can only do it at a public hearing. We're also going to increase the late fee to something more than $50 if we need to at the same time. So kind of two-part issue there.
Okay,
Very good.
excellent. That should clean up and get people to pay for it.
What happened to the deposit? Weren't we raising the deposit? Or like,
Currently,
talk about that?
Yeah, currently resident-owned units, there are no deposit requirements at all, which is none. If it's a tenant, there's a deposit, but it's not enough to get anybody's attention. It's $50, and so again,
I thought we were gonna raise that.
We are, but we'll need to do that as part of your final decision on utility rates, and we'll do it one time rather than trying to do it
You're
twice.
gonna pick up the interest and the late charges.
Yeah, essentially, we're going to, I took notes at the last meeting about the various issues that you wanted to address, late fees, deposits, but because it's all rulemaking, our suggestion is we do it in one fell swoop when we do the rulemaking, so we don't do interim rulemaking, then change all the rates, and then decide that the numbers don't line up anymore. So I think when we have the clearer picture, it's going to happen over the next couple of months, as you pointed out. We'll see really better guidance on what these numbers should be, and then we'll engage in the rulemaking process so that we can basically, going into the fall, have a different system.
Very good.
Final item I have today, I'm on to item 7 now, behind the next tab, your 4-month financials for those through the end of January. Some of the highlights, you'll see that your combined cash position is about $5.2 million. That is split between the operating fund, the primary operating fund, $3,951,000. The utility fund had $1,353,000 in it in terms of current assets that are there. Additionally, the board has another $8 million in fixed assets net of depreciation that represent the current value of your utility system, your street lighting, and your roads that are all part of that. There were $77,000 in payables that were outstanding that are shown at the end of the month on the liability portion. On the next page, the first page of the income statement, you'll see there was $13,797 that was received in January for non-ad valorem assessments. I'm sorry, that's the interest. There's $28,000 in non-ad valorem assessments. That's a pretty good number for January. What that says to me is that most of that was probably received in the final days of December, where people were chasing not only a discount, but also a personal deduction for their income tax return. It didn't get posted until early January, but that's why that number is as high as it is. Year-to-date interest earnings are $51,000, which is slightly above the original forecast that we had, even in light of the fact that rates are down. But that, again, speaks to your strong cash position. Your year-to-date non-ad valorem assessments shown are $635,000. That's only about 75% of the total. Most of my clients are about 10% higher than that by this time of year. That, to me, means that the hotel has not yet paid its taxes. And as a result of that, they will become delinquent, as in recent history, they'll go to a certificate sale. The tax collector will sell those unpaid taxes at an auction. But year-to-date, 75% is okay, but it's in recognition that somebody's going to come in when they hold that auction in May, and they're going to purchase those unpaid taxes and pay them on the spot, and I'll get our money at that point. That's been the recent history on that particular property.
Mine might be part of that problem too. That property on the east side that I still owe is messed up. And it's showing that I owe $21,000 on there. Last year it was $7,500. We've been trying to straighten this out. I don't know why this has happened, but Kevin's been looking into it.
We have, and I think that if we can, maybe we should have a conversation with you, given the history. This goes back to when the prior board approved a transfer of the ERCs, the capacity ERCs. I don't know that it was ever fully executed, although the minutes of the meeting are very clear.
Yeah.
The board approved it. It had a couple of conditions, which in my opinion have been met. We can update you at that time if you want to talk to us for a minute or two after the conclusion.
My question on this is, the last 2 years it was right, and then this year it went wrong. How did that get to the county as being changed?
The changes that were made in the prior years appear to have been prior to the methodology update that was done in January of 22. Mm-hmm. That's the tax roll that we inherited when we arrived here. And so what got reported to the county prior to that, it appears that not only did the board approve your ERC capacity transfer, and there's a policy and a procedure for that, and it was all done correct. It appears they may have also extended that to the operating ERC. You know, I've got sort of two, I've got a capacity ERC and then I've got an operating ERC. And the issue that I have if we're going to make an adjustment is, does the transfer policy in place also extend to the annual operating and maintenance ERC for that same property? And because when the research that I've done in talking to Kevin, it's not crystal clear. And so we may want to bring that back, and if so, then we will need, for your commercial property, we will need to reimburse you from the proceeds that we get from the tax collector.
Now, my issue is I got a final notice here. I got a week to pay this, or I go into penalties and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I think you should pay it under protest in light of what I have just said, because otherwise then they're going to need to be penalties that have to be, you know, dealt with at the same time. And if you were overcharged in the most recent year, because the intent of the policy is to not only allow for the capacity transfer, but you would get the corresponding operating and maintenance credit for that property the same. I just need to make sure that that's, and in fact, Zach and I haven't had a chance to talk about this. This sort of came up the last couple of days.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah.
But with that, the only other thing I wanted to say in regards to this, and I can talk to you further about that particular tax bill on the commercial property following the meeting. When I look at all of the cost centers here, we're really in good shape. Total year-to-date expenses in the general fund are about $200,000 below budget, and the utility year-to-date operating is also under budget to the tune of $77,000. And so from an expense side, we're really in good shape. One additional thing that I did today, I attached the just received audit for the prior year. That's behind the next tab that is there. I thought it would be important to get just a couple of things on the record. Yeah, what I would want you to know, at least for purposes of the record, is that this is a clean audit without exception, and our year-ending balances are all fairly represented and accurate. There were no adjusting entries at all that were found through the audit process. They do a separate analysis of internal controls and anti-fraud and segregation of duties. There were no deficiencies that were noted as it concerns your internal controls. Your investment policies are in accordance with the state of Florida. We choose to default here to the state guidelines as opposed to investing our proceeds separately. It gets really complicated if you do, but what that means is that your accounts are in what are called a qualified Florida public depositor. So if you're going to be a bank, a chartered bank, and you're going to hold government funds, you have to have liquid assets to offset those balance totals. And you have to depict those as such and send that to the state controller that monitors that. So all of your accounts are in a qualified public depositor bank for which they have liquid assets to offset your account balances before anybody else gets paid, is what it amounts to in the event of a default. And there were no material defects at all. So as part of your accepting the January financials today, I've also included the audit so that it will be part of our record at the meeting. This gets uploaded to the website, And in turn, we forward the audit on to the Auditor General of the state of Florida that we're required to do under the law. So good audit,
job.
good clean audit that
Thank
speaks to the work of our accounting staff, and I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Thank you.
So with that, a motion to accept the January financials and also the audit for the prior year.
I make a motion we accept financials.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
That takes us down, Zach, to the license agreement.
Sure. And I believe Mr. Schaefer is on Zoom. I don't know if he's still here with us, but I will talk through where we are. After the last meeting, we went back with all of your feedback and made the edits into the document. There are some track changes shown. These are items from South Florida that were not discussed at the last meeting. All the other items that were discussed are in here. So, for example, the consideration being paid is $50,000. I know there was some discussion about 60. In response to that, South Florida proposal was if you want 60, they want to shrink the term and pay you 40 with $10,000 options. Thinking this through and continuing negotiation, we suggest to keep it at 50 for a year and a half. And I'll note that the term has been modified so that as soon as they're done with the work, the easement terminates anyway. You'll see some little additions in the grant of easement 2. They wanted to make it clear that they could have a porta potty in case the trailer does not have a bathroom. Because we're asking them to use the power pole as opposed to generators, from a noise perspective, we're agreeing to cooperate if they need any sign off with the electric company. I think those are non-material changes. The dust control is specifically in here, so they're attaching their construction standards, which allow them to require dust control, but we're having them agree in this agreement that they are going to, in fact, do that. So if anyone has any specific questions, I went through I rewatched the portion of the meeting to make sure I caught all of the comments. They've been reflected in here, and the only thing new that you haven't talked about is really on page 1 with those changes about the porta potty and the electrical. I don't know, do we confirm that Mr. Schaefer is present?
I don't think he is.
Okay, no problem. So my recommendation.
Can you hear me? I am here.
Was
Thanks
that
for coming back.
Did I give a fair summary of the document?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sounds accurate. Thank you.
So what I'm, at your pleasure, if you'd like, you can move to approve this with the changes accepted. It will then go to South Florida, their board. They will have to approve it. Upon their approval, it will be recorded and the process could start. But if you have questions or don't want to do that, your floor is yours.
I just have a question. What happens if it goes over, a year and a half?
Yeah, so it's time limited to 18 months, so they would need to get another easement. Or they would have to just take everything off the property and restore it to the condition. So that you're specifically only giving them 18 months. My understanding from South Florida staff is they don't think they will need all 18 months, but it doesn't really matter. We're giving them 18 months. If they need more time, they have to come back to you.
I make a motion that we accept this offer.
A second.
Warren? All in favor? Aye.
So, Mr. Schaefer, we will get this finalized, executed, and over to you so you can bring it to your board. Thank you very much for your attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
The other, it's not shown on here, but I believe there's warranted a parcel 13 discussion based on the letter we received. So at the last meeting, you authorized me to send a reminder notice about the parcel 13 payment. That was sent. In response, we have the letter that is in front of you from Mr. Case's attorney, in which he essentially requests, and I believe, Mr. Truxton, are you on the line, just for record purposes?
Yes, I am here.
Great, thank you very much for being here. My understanding of the request here, keeping in mind that there's some mutual issues going on here about us needing access to the monitoring wells that are on this property, and then as you can see in the letter, there's an initial request for additional time here. I spoke with Neil about this, and I believe kind of our unified recommendation here is for you all to have a board member meet with Mr. Case and team to see if there's any possible workable deal here that they can bring back to you at your April meeting for consideration, as opposed to immediately sending the notice of default. But that's for discussion and up to your preference. And if there's questions, I can answer them.
Do you want to explain why you wouldn't do the default letter
Well,
tomorrow?
So the default letter starts the process of essentially stripping the property of entitlement to ERCs. And I think I don't know that there's a particular rush to do this. If there is a way to resolve the issue, essentially, and Mr. Truxton, if you feel this is not accurate, you can relay this, but the presence of the heavy metals, which is part of what is leading to this discussion, is something that may have not been clear to Mr. Case until very recently. And I'm not saying that everyone had a right to do a phase one when you purchased the property. So I don't know that that's a be-all, end-all point. But on the other side of the coin, I don't know that there is a rush to strip this property of ERCs if there's a possible deal that could salvage the development opportunities here. If the ERCs get removed from this property, it will be very difficult to develop the property in the future. And there isn't in the agreement that's essentially what happens at the end of the agreement. We send the default notice, money is not paid, ERCs get removed from the property, or the entitlement to purchase them get removed from the property, and then it just sort of sits there. And so if there's an opportunity to resolve this, last time something like this happened, you all were paid for an extension. In my opinion, it's worth at least exploring that, but certainly that is not necessary. The payment is due, I believe, tomorrow. If it's not paid tomorrow, under the agreement, you're entitled to send a notice of default. He has 30 days in which to remedy the situation, at which point the ERCs can be stripped from the property.
I don't know if this is a place to talk about some of the terms in this contract.
Yes.
You want to talk about it?
I mean, well, my recommendation is we need to get to a decision, so if that would be helpful, we certainly can. Mr. Truxton, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I want to make sure that each of you do have with you, hopefully, Tony, Zach has presented my letter of March 11th. What has transpired since the last time I spoke to you all several months ago when we did that last extension. As you're aware, Mr. Case went under contract to sell this property to MI Homes. We believed that everything was moving forward in a positive direction. Unfortunately, as I've notified Mr. Pyers by my letter of March 11th, MI Homes terminated their contract, and in discussions with them, the primary reason they terminated it was because of the phase one environmental report that they received on the property, which indicated the possibility of contamination. They mentioned lead specifically, and they believe that the source may be the gun range there to the north of the property that is contaminating the soils on the northerly portion of the property. They indicated that further investigation would be required, but at this point, they're not prepared to go forward. Also, in further discussion with them and with others, there may be several different resolutions. One of the resolutions may require some significant revisions in the site plan that has already been before you, and I think you're aware of it. May also result in not being able to use the fill dirt from the northerly portion of the property to excavate, create the lake, and fill the rest of the site. As a result, we could end up losing a significant number of lots. Right now, we have like 100 planned there with 100 ERCs. We may not be able to achieve that number of lots. In speaking to Mr. Gruber of MI Homes, when they were doing their assessment, they were looking at the possibility of shifting the lake to the south, preserving that area to the north that is contaminated, but in doing so, they could lose, in their estimation, 20 to 30 home sites. All that needs to be further investigated to determine, one, what is the extent of the contamination. We believe that we know the source, and I think you all are having similar issues with your monitoring well there as well. After we determine that, what is the best course of remediation? Do we have to remove the fill dirt that's contaminated, or do we need to isolate it? And then what impact does that have on the current site plan for this project, including the potential, as I indicated before, for losing a significant number of lots? I think we're all in this together. You have issues also relating to possible contamination from that same source affecting your well. I heard earlier today in the meeting the discussion of the order from DEP. I think we all need to investigate this together and work cooperatively towards a potential resolution. So what I've asked is, instead of sending us a default notice, instead of us immediately saying we're going to terminate the ERC agreement, which was one of the things that would happen if we don't make that payment, that ERC agreement terminates, let's put a timeout on this so we can at least collectively figure out what's going on here and what the best course of action is to reach a resolution that would be satisfactory to all parties here. If you have any questions, please let me know. Zach, did I adequately summarize our discussion that you and I had?
Yes. You did. Are there any questions?
Well, I don't agree with all that summary, but more importantly, I guess, is that in the contract, there is a no later than clause in there that I know I talked to you about. Okay.
We have discussed this. I do not, I think we have different opinions as to what the significance of that clause is.
Okay. There's one easy way. You could make his first payment.
Certainly, they could make the payment, and then and that's certainly something that he could consider, because the payment is not for all of the ERCs; it is for a portion of the ERCs. So even if he had to shed 20 to 30 units, there would still be a necessity to have this first tranche of ERCs. I understand that position. I don't know what Mr. Case plans to do as that is concerned, but that is a good point, that the number of ERCs being purchased in round one is not 100% of the ERCs. I don't even believe it's 50% of the ERCs.
Sir.
Mr. Truxton, do you have a thought as to that?
Until we have a better assessment of this entire situation, I don't believe he's prepared to make any payments under the ERC agreement. I think we need to regroup and understand the significance of this new information. And keep in mind that this source of contamination from the gun range, one, does not only affect you and your water plant, but also it's a situation that apparently predates his acquisition of the property from the district. So I don't know what the ramifications of all that is, but I think we need to all step back and assess the situation before anything further is done on this. I simply asking for 30-day extension, if you want to call it that, or a 30-day abatement until we are able to collectively come to some sort of understanding as to what the potential impact is of this new information on the property.
And I think I just want to be clear that there is some more firm language you just used about the potential contamination. It has not been confirmed, and I don't believe that we have any indication that it's impacting the water plant. But as far as what you're asking, I understand generally, and I would view this as not anything other than asking the district to hold off on sending the notice of default so that a conversation can be had. But I don't know if that's the board's determination. Certainly, I understand the time frame here has been quite long already, and we do need to distinguish this concept of there was no bar on Mr. Case performing phase one when he acquired the property at the time. I know it's unfortunate that didn't happen, but I do see that there's potentially some mutual benefit to some discussion here. So I'm not advising the board not to do that. But this is a very policy level decision on how you want to handle this. Yes.
Okay. If we do go ahead and send a letter of default, he has 30 days to correct that under the law.
Under the contract.
And he's asking for 30 days to correct it anyway. So why wouldn't we send a letter?
I believe what he's asking, and Mr. Truxton, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what you're not saying that that Mr. Case is going to show up on the 30th day and make the payment. You're saying that he's most likely going to bring forward some kind of proposal that is essentially a more formal extension with probably additional conditions about testing and or payment and or other conditions that would cause the district to agree to that.
So if we want.
Let me inject here also. I have a proposal that we have obtained for a third party to do a phase 2 environmental study. That study is going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks to get that even done once it's authorized. So I don't want anybody under a misconception that this is going to resolve quickly within 30 days. I think, need to get a further understanding of what the extent, confirm whether or not there is actual contamination, what the extent of that contamination is, what the source is, and then the resolution. I think you're talking about, frankly, a longer than 30-day period of time to get this all worked out. I'm just saying, let's take 30 days time out so we can figure out the path forward. But just getting the phase 2 done on this is going to take at least, 4 to 6 weeks. So it's not we're not going to have a final resolution in 30 days. I think within 30 days, we can have a meeting of the minds between us and come back to this board with a suggestion of a path forward, not necessarily a final resolution.
Now, on that standpoint, we've been trying to get permission to go on his property to start our testing process and have gotten nowhere with it. All this is doing is pushing us back. Why haven't we been able to get permission to start our testing?
Well, because we're trying to understand what the issue is here ourselves and before we do anything. And I think that's part of what this 30 days is about. The request was for all of a sudden, out of the blue, for you guys to come onto the property to do, and we need to understand what that's all about and what's going on here and understand the bigger picture here. I'm suggesting that he'll be cooperative in having you go on the property once we have a better understanding of exactly what's being done here.
What
And
have
I
you
think
done for the last 30 days? May I ask? Last time, when we gave the extension, Lindsay fought right up to midnight, the midnight hour of that extension, and it all came in the last 2 days, right? And he knew everything was coming ahead of time, and everything had to happen in the 12th hour, right? And now, what have you done for the last month? Nothing has changed in the last month. Everyone knows what's on the table, and now you're coming to us, well, you need another 30 days. Why do you wait till the end to come forward? Why don't you get your work done ahead of time? That's one of the things.
Because what happened in the last 30 days is we received this notice of termination from MI Homes. We spent some time with MI Homes trying to understand the reasons for their termination, whether or not there was an ability to resurrect the deal, and obtaining a proposal for a phase 2 environmental study to further investigate it. That's what we've been doing for the last 30 days. Now, before we can move forward with a phase 2, before we move forward with a plan to resolve this issue, we would like to resolve it together with the board because we think there's some commonality of interest here as it relates to this potential source of contamination. I don't want to turn this into an adversarial process. We're trying to work together to cooperatively come up with a joint resolution that makes sense for all parties.
I understand that, but the point is that our patience have worn thin on this deal because of the way it's been handled. You've always had notice. You've known it for years. The notice has always been there. We gave you a 6-month extension, which the board unanimously agreed upon. And we thought you'd likely come back because of the way Lindsay spoke. And here you are, you're back again.
Well, what we anticipated happening was that we were going under contract with MI Homes. I believe MI Homes appeared before this board. We thought everything was going along a proper course of action with MI Homes to acquire the property. MI Homes was aware of the March deadline. The way our contract was worded with MI Homes was that they had to close before the March deadline. If they wanted to extend beyond the March deadline, they had to come back to you for a further extension of time. And instead, what we got was an 11th hour termination of the contract right before their feasibility period expired. That took us all by surprise. We had to regroup and figure out what was going on before we could come back to this board and request it. My letter to Mr. Pyers was dated March 11th, so that was over 10 days ago. And again, the time before that was taken up just trying to understand what was going on here with this newfound information that took all of us, frankly, by surprise. So when you say we were on notice, yeah, we were on notice that a payment was due, but we certainly were not on notice of this potential environmental contamination issue. And again, it is potential. We don't know actual until there's further testing done here.
Then why have you stopped us from doing the testing?
Because we need to find out what testing is required ourselves and what needs to be done here. It frankly came out of the blue on phone call without any kind of indication as to exactly what testing is being done and why. Now we have a better understanding ourselves, and we're prepared to move forward.
Personally, I think that's nonsense.
I get a question. They have to do testing, we have to do testing. Is their testing gonna cover our base, what we need?
No, because they have to test on their property. We'll be testing on off-site and on the gun club's property.
So therefore, it may make sense to do some joint testing here together. Or it may be that we will be able to use your testing results. I don't know that until we get in front of our environmental experts.
No, I'd rather you use your testing result. We used your testing results.
I don't trust that.
I don't profess to be expert in this area. I'd like to have your people, your experts who are doing your testing coordinate with ours so that everything is coordinated together.
We need to talk about this in another.
We are required by DEP to do our testing. It's on our permit. We have to do our testing that they require through the DEP. We have to. We don't have a choice. We'll lose our permit if we don't. We'll be fined a ton of money if we don't turn in the results of the required DEP testing by August, we get fined. So we have to turn that in. We have to do our part of the testing.
Agree. One suggestion, though, is that, and I think this is potentially part of the potential mutual benefit here, is perhaps that Mr. Case, in compensation for an extension, could pay for all of the testing, including your testing, not do the testing for you. You have already engaged.
I don't think so. I'm going to say I don't think he'll do that.
Okay.
But I think it makes sense to cooperate here to understand what testing needs to be done. I think there's a request, which frankly just came to my attention relatively recently, that do you need an additional well on his property? Is that what the request is? Or is it to monitor the existing well?
Monitor the existing well.
Okay, so that was not clear to me.
And you would like to have cooperation as long as it's all in your favor.
No, that's not what I said.
That's exactly what you said.
Let me discuss this, but back to the 30 days. He wanted 30 days to have some time to take a look at this, figure out a game plan. If we send a letter, and he has 30 days by law anyway to come up with a game plan or come back and work it out, any issues, either way, he gets his 30 days. Okay, at the end of the 30 days, if we don't send a letter, we haven't gained any ground. We're right back to sitting where we're sitting. If we send a letter and he comes to us in 30 days with a proposal, we can rescind that letter and work on it.
With all due respect, I think sending out a default notice sends the wrong message and the wrong tone and starts an adversarial process that I don't think that makes sense for us to go down. Because sending a default notice has different ramifications than simply say, let's take 30 days to try to come up with a resolution here. It's more like a forbearance agreement to take 30 days, time out, let's come up with a resolution together.
I look at it differently. So far, we have not seen a lot of response from Lindsay and company. And I think if the letter goes out, you understand that we've kind of reached our limit on waiting for you to do what you need to do. I think it starts the process, all right? And it makes you hold the timeline that by 30 days, you're going to actually come forward with something. So I think that.
Well, and just before you respond, Mr. Jackson, I just want to confirm, since I believe you're asking me that question, that I agree with everything you said. We could send the notice, we could rescind the notice, and I believe, Mr. Truxton, it's more framed as a notice to cure than a default, and so it certainly protects the district's interests, and I did mention this to you on the phone call, that we would send the notice. That doesn't mean we can't have a conversation the way you would like to have a conversation about potential resolution. This board meets in less than 30 days from today anyway, and the notice doesn't go out today because I believe the deadline is tomorrow. So there will be real time on the other side of that notice for this board to meet in its ordinary course of business, at which point it could absolutely rescind the notice, enter into a different style agreement, come up with some kind of plan. But I think what Board Member Truckee is concerned about is, and a perfectly legitimate concern, if we wait, we didn't start the clock, there's no real pressure. And so, but I, I'm just confirming that is an option that can be pursued.
That's what I thought it would work. It gives them 30 days to come to us, and it kind of gives them a push to come to us within the 30 days, which so far Lindsay hasn't been real cooperative about with anything.
So I do think, but I want to, I'm sorry, just really quick, on the record, I want to be clear, on this issue about the monitoring well, I think that there is some, what I'll say, I think legitimate confusion about that. I mean, if we have a monitoring well on someone's private property, I think there's legitimate questions that can be asked about access and these sort of things. And we have to keep in mind as a board, you all meet on this 30-day cycle. And so, yes, we did receive this letter on the 11th, that was 10 days ago, but obviously you all can't meet and discuss that letter until today. So I don't know that it's overly, the access and the monitoring well piece is something that I think there's some legitimate questions that were asked and that can be assembled as part of this. So I don't know that that was intentionally obstructions.
I can't say for sure, but I believe, I read it and we talked about it. I believe that we have to do some soil samples on this property. There's like one south, one north, there's some different soil samples that can be taken. I don't believe there's any new wells going in, test wells or anything.
Okay.
All right, so it's not a big deal. It's just a soil bore down to 10 feet or something to do soil samples. Not a big thing.
That is news to me. If it is, I would request that we be provided with a scope of work of exactly what is anticipated to be done.
We have this well, we have all these easements, we have no easement access to this well to do our tests. There's no easement
The
access.
well is ours. It's on our property. We have to expand out from the well. We know what the readings are at the well. We take them all the time. All right. By DEP permit, we have to test all 4 of our wells all the time, just to make sure that we're not polluting the groundwater ourselves. All right.
So
In
around-
those tests, in our test to make sure we're not polluting the groundwater, we notice that we're picking up pollution from somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's where this whole thing got started.
Okay, all right. Let's get to the goal here.
Just if I can clarify here, the request that we received was, I believe, a phone message asking for access to our property to test a monitoring well that frankly none of us, I didn't know, was even on Lindsay's property. So I think it makes sense to understand exactly what monitoring well you're talking about. Now I'm hearing about soil samples. That's something a little different than a monitoring well. I'd like to have a written description of exactly what you all are requesting.
Okay, now, to get back to where, I want to get to the results. Where are we going with this? I mean, I agree we got to start the clock with this guy. Otherwise, it's just going to be, every meeting's going to be start the clock, all right? But what happens if it comes back with some type of contamination? How's that rectified? And he's sitting on property that nobody's going to be able to use that night. Is that the message?
Could it be that?
I don't know.
I don't think it's that bad because we have other monitoring wells that are on the other side of his property and they're not having really anything, So
yeah,
that is the only one of 4 wells that is showing any readings. Okay, so we have to find out what's going on. Nobody knows at this point. Nobody knows, and the testing will help bring that to a head. But I personally, I'm just going to speak my opinion here. I think that we start the clock. I think it's foolish not to start the clock because Lindsay has not shown very, very much anticipation to work with us. Okay, so I think we start the clock, and he's got 30 days to come forward with an offer, with terms, whatever. We'll sit down at our next board meeting. We'll be able to talk about that and decide if we want to go with the program.
I agree that we start the clock and get it rolling.
So
I think they did get a curveball. I mean, maybe he should have EPA tested the land, whatever the hell developers do, I don't know. Is it, well then.
He didn't do it.
Yeah,
He chose not to.
okay, but we still gotta look for what we're gonna do.
The thing is, it would be different if Lindsay Case had been working with us in good faith since the beginning of this, but you know as well as I do, that isn't what's happening, and read between the lines. I'm not gonna write another check to the CID. That's what I've been told.
That's what he said that before we gave him the extension.
And I also knew that MI Homes was backing out of this deal before the last board meeting because I mentioned it to the people here.
Yeah.
So it isn't like he didn't know about it more
Well,
than a month.
then you must have known about it before we did, because we did not find out about it and were caught quite off guard when we received their notice of termination, which I believe was after your last board meeting.
But I would have guessed that your client wasn't forthcoming with the information because they knew.
No, sir. I was in direct communication with MI Homes, with Mr. Gruber and with their attorneys. And when we got the notice of termination, it was a total surprise to us.
There's multiple reasons that termination came, and this just happens to be a convenient one to work with. And you're addressing it like there was only one issue to that whole.
Then, sir, I'm asking, you must know something that I don't know.
All right. Can we make a motion at this time? Take a vote? Sure.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we go forward with the letter, and will give us 30 days to receive something from Mr. Case, an attorney. And at that point, we'll have a chance to relook at this as a board as to whether we want to go into a program with them or not, but at least it starts the clock.
Understood. Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, let me
Oh, sorry.
comment. I'm gonna agree with it, but we have to look, I want to know what's gonna happen if everything goes to crap. And it just shuts down.
We don't know what's going to happen, but we can expect that to happen.
What
I mean,
talking about if there was bad contamination or something?
Yeah, no, or anything, he doesn't pay, then the property just sits there.
Well, we're
I
going to
mean,
discuss.
Are we gonna be laying assessments on this property? So that we can't lay any, like, assessments?
This goes back to the last board when they sold this property. Instead of getting the money up front, they gave them the sweetheart deal.
All right, so we get screwed, so.
The O&M assessments are already on the property.
Yes,
And he's paying them. The ERCs will, if he doesn't pay.
Utilities.
The utilities will not be attached to the property at any point in time, and they will lose the right to attach them later.
But he'll have to keep paying the O&Ms? How much was that?
I believe the last cycle was $80,000.
77.
Every year, 80 grand?
Yes.
So it would be either he'd be paying us 80 grand.
Or they're going to be sold at that
Or if
auction.
he sold at auction, we'd still get that, right? Or it's just gonna build up till the 80 grand eats up everything that he has in equity in that property.
These are tax assessments, and so they go through the tax certificate process. So the tax certificate process usually guarantees that the governments get paid.
Okay.
Because the auction is not for the amount, the auction is for the interest rate on the payback. And so the local governments get their taxes through the tax certificate process. So I wouldn't be particularly concerned about that portion, but what could be concerning is the ERCs would not be assigned.
No, I just didn't want it to be sitting there and doing nothing for us. That way, it's doing something for us.
It's doing something right
Okay,
now.
so
Well,
I give you my,
let's have the conversation with.
let's go.
We want to take, all in favor?
Yes.
In discussion, it was February the 7th when they notified us, where you sent the email to us.
I know.
Okay.
Their attorney wasn't provided that same information, obviously.
Yep, I'm ready to vote.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
May I ask one further question? What was the reference to the February 7th date?
It's not in, let's just move forward.
No, what was it was set on the record, so just so he has that information. What was on February 7th?
Yeah, it says from Alan Gruber to Steve McNamee, subject parcel 13, and it reads it basically back in it. It was on the 7th.
That was February 7th.
More than 30 days by far.
Yeah.
just continues the,
Well, thank you for your attendance, Mr. Truxton. And just so I can articulate how I understood the motion, the notice will go out per the timeliness of the contract. The board is expecting to receive some kind of proposal from Mr. Case as to how to resolve the lack of payment or presumably payment. But I think we're more expecting some kind of proposal. My office, and I don't want to speak for Neil, but I presume we'll be available to discuss what that could look like so that we can hopefully have some conversations in advance of the board meeting. So the sooner we can get some drafts from you or just some sketches to what the ideas look like, that would be helpful so that we can bring something productive to the board at that meeting.
Mr. Lombardo, I'll schedule a time to speak to you directly if I could.
Sure.
Thank
Zach,
you.
do you have anything further?
I have nothing further.
I think that takes us, Mr. Chairman, down to supervisor request. You had asked me to include one item concerning the old hotel site.
Yes.
And the other board members may have other things. Do you want to introduce that?
Yeah, I asked you about whether or not we could get the 7 acres from the county.
Yeah, so here's the update. It's probably been 2 months ago now, I met with the deputy county manager and had a brief follow-up conversation through the county manager as to whether or not they would consider proposals to acquire or declare that property surplus. And the indication that I had was that they would at a staff level, but they wanted us, if we were interested in some sort of interlocal governmental agreement, that we reduce that to writing and then present that to the board as part of what they call a public petition at a county commission meeting. A lot of this was prior to the most recent issues, with the withdrawal of MI Homes, but Mr. McNamee still thinks that it could be beneficial for the district as opposed to the county to own that property if the terms were right.
Did we ask you to start that letter last meeting? I can't remember.
I don't recall.
I don't think so.
Okay, so what do you think? You want to continue to pursue getting that property from them, from the county?
I think so.
my opinion is I would table it till the next meeting.
No discussion?
Table.
Okay,
Okay, why?
good idea.
If it was,
Because everything that's going on, I think that we should table a purchase agreement on that until,
see what the adjoining.
see whatever.
Oh, is that a gift?
With his offer coming in 30 days.
That's
with his
not a
offer
gift.
coming
Is
in-
that a gift?
No, it's going to be
I
a
should
purchase.
say that it was related to me that the county has at least $450,000 in cost associated with the demolition, the old hotel, and they would look at a minimum to be, made whole from any of their direct out-of-pocket expenses in the time that they've owned it.
How many acres is that?
7. That's cheap.
I mean, with the district, use that fence, use
Yeah, I don't
it
think
to
there's any
mark our
rush to
bolts
that.
and crap.
If it's the consensus of the board, then just to table it for the time being, I'll make a note and.
Consensus?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Any other supervisor requests?
Yes.
Everybody. I'll start off with, on the median out front, on 41, I've contacted Soto. They said to return that to sod or just trees, and sods would be $23,000, and that's on county business, so do we want to do something about that, or is that just for informational purposes?
Sounds like a lot of money you gotta do it at the sod.
Well, we've got irrigation in there. I don't know why we couldn't seed it, but what does the board want to do about this? We should just,
Well, it's not gonna get mowed. You put sod in there and the state or the county will take over coming out whenever they mow it.
Yeah.
I don't know that
Every 3
sodding
months.
is necessary. The only places that won't have sod is right where the bushes are. If you pull the bushes out of there.
Let's do this. My recollection is it was allowed under a special right-of-way permit but it put the conditions for the maintenance on the district as opposed to either FDOT or the county. Let me get our hands on a copy of that permit to see what it says about alterations or changes, unless you've already got it.
I have.
Okay. In your opinion, does it give us the authority to, modify or change what was approved?
I believe it said the only way they'd take it back is if we returned it back to where the.
FDOT, but hey, sod.
Either party
no
could back out
irrigation.
of the agreement, but if we back out, ask for some. We can keep the trees, I believe the palm trees and stuff can stay, it's just the bushes.
Any further discussion?
And the maintenance cost on that is what, $29,000 a year?
Yeah.
So that would eliminate that. So basically we pay 1 year in advance.
In my opinion, the county should landscape that to begin with. And they landscape all of Davis, they do all their stuff in the city. And I think that we should be seeing something out here. They keep referring to the agreement, so I think that the end around is that you drop the agreement and turn it back to sod, and then go back to them and say, now what?
Would it make any difference to get a hold of Castro and try to twist him a little bit?
He's going to be bound to a policy. Their improved median, plan is only in the urban area, and outside of that, in Immokalee, for example, they require, historically, they've had a separate county taxing district to operate and maintain both the landscaping, and they've got kind of a higher grade of architectural street lighting in downtown Immokalee, so they're not going to pay for it with general revenues. At the end of the day, they're either going to have your district pay for it, or they're going to create a district to pay for it.
Do we pay the same taxes as someone in Naples proper in the city? Do we pay the same county taxes?
Not inside the city limits, and the reason for that has to do with the sheriff. The city residents pay into the county general fund. All of the rest of us pay into the unincorporated area general fund, because we pay a higher proportionate share in support of the sheriff, where they're paying for their municipal police department through their separate tax.
Okay, so other than the law enforcement aspect of it, we pay the same taxes?
Pretty much. There are a couple of parks that are part of that, but it doesn't effectively change the total.
Are you asking, you mean specifically the incorporated city or just the general, because incorporated Naples is very
General
small.
county, all right? Any county that has landscaping in their medians, I believe, from what I know, we pay the same taxes.
Well, because I think what he's asking, in the urban county area, you are, compared to here, you are, as I understand, paying the same taxes.
Same taxes. Okay, so
because the city
under
of
those
Naples-
same taxes, they landscape their median. I don't know how they cannot landscape ours.
There's a policy as discussed, and this is actually, the landscaping policy in Collier has recently come up in discussion at the county commission level about which roads they're going to pick. So there is at this point probably no longer active, but recently very active conversation about where they will take median responsibilities, because their costs are pretty incredible. It's something like $80,000 a mile per year. And so I think the county's landscaping budget is something like $10 million a year or something like that. It's pretty incredible.
Okay.
But I don't know, my suggestion is if you were looking to get landscaped medians in this zone that were county landscaped, it would need to be through an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners. And I think your entry point on that
But
is
just
always.
by way of comparison, Pelican Marsh and Tiburon are clients of ours, and they're districts that are there. And if you think about it, as you're going up Airport Road or going down Vanderbilt Beach Road, there's no landscape improvements in those medians at all. And they've been furious about it for a decade. And the county staff's position is, we don't have any money for new projects like that. But they're saying, well, we've got some of the highest assessed values in the county, and we paid for Davis Boulevard, and we paid for Golden Gate City, and we paid for the north part of US 41, and they don't care. Under the current policy that's in place, the program that is there receives funding from general revenues countywide, but they don't have any new plans to be doing any other projects unless it's through a separate taxing district.
So basically,
Who's paying for 951 or Collier Boulevard that they're putting all
Which is
that
a
new
state
stuff?
highway, the Board of County Commissioners, through county-wide general sources of revenue. Some of it could include some sales tax or gas tax, but the balance are ad valorem taxes.
So basically, we're gonna pay to take the stuff out, if that's what we decide, and then it's gonna remain grass.
Yes.
That's,
No, it will retain mud.
You know what?
It will retain, it'll be mud. I lived here before we had the main put in, trust me. It will be mud.
The FDOT standard is Bahia sod, like pasture grade sod, because it doesn't have the high ornamental expenses to treat chinch bugs and broadleaf weeds and fungus, because Flortam is very susceptible to that. And they're, I don't know how often they bring the bush hog down and mow the rest of, US 41, but it'll be whatever their standard sod and maintenance schedule is. So if that's just once a quarter in Bahia sod without irrigation, it'll be similar to what else is there.
I'd still like to say that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if we're going to go back to them, they have parks they pay for. Some parks I know go to the neighborhood, going to a special tax thing, but some parks aren't. We have no parks out here. We have no medians out here. And we pay actually pretty high taxes out here.
but like Neil already said, you got people with influence and money in Naples that can't get this to work in their favor. I don't think we're gonna get it to work in our favor being out here in the boonies where they don't care. So I think that's the long and the short of it.
Is there a time frame on this decision that needs?
No.
Because my thought, and maybe in support of tabling this, is it would be, I think you maybe should gather some more information. You're like having the meeting with McCastro perhaps, and watching, because there has been very active discussion at the commission level about this. This is a really controversial issue in some ways. And so it'd be helpful to, and I can get you some of the links, to kind of watch that conversation to help think through what to do here. Because I tend to agree that while there's
You should be buying that hotel's land for sure.
Sorry. While I agree that the path I was providing is the path, but I agree with Neil that it would be very difficult to get the county to landscape that to the standard. In some part, because I don't know where the closest landscape median is to here, because for example, Marco does they do their own landscaping. So I don't know.
The intersection of 41 and Collier would be the closest improved landscape median.
So we have to think through that, because when they're thinking through this, they're thinking through logistical costs and mobilization issues as part of this as well.
Well, what if we put it back to sod and then we continue to have Soto mow it? So in other words, we could still maintain the looks of the grass, but at a much reduced price.
If it could be much reduced.
Oh man, they're spending a ton of time on trimming all those things. But I mean, we can look into it.
Let's table it and let's bring this up again during the May budget workshop, because it has budget implications one way or the other, and I just think that would be Kevin, if you would, give me a copy of that permit.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I see that as well?
Other supervisor requests?
Yes, I have one. We had a couple of people today come up and speak about Steve's piece of land over there in the front of the community. I know that's come up before in the board meeting a couple of times, and we kind of tabled it. I don't know, is it time to take another look at that?
I think so.
Now, the 6 acres we decided to table and not look into that anymore, but you have acres then?
About 2, but there's a quarter of an acre of conservation in it.
All right, so we have 1 3/4 acres.
I would suggest if the district is interested in exploring this route, because the property owner is a board member, we need to very carefully think through the 112 implications. It is possible to engage in what's called sole source procurement when the only possible seller is a board member, but to to do that, it is our recommendation that a realtor be engaged to identify the district's needs, to make sure that this is checking all the sole source procurement boxes. And I say that both to protect the district, but also, Mr. McNamee, the 112 rules are personal to you all. And so I would be very cautious about this. So if the district has identified a need for property, and it's that property, that need needs to be articulated. And again, I think hiring either a realtor or an appraiser to help identify and confirm that that is in fact the only property that meets the qualifications is the appropriate method to handle this.
I think somebody asked about going to the Ethics Commission on this too, and we didn't get any answers.
Oh, I don't believe that the board moved to go to the Ethics Commission on
He
this.
can't just recuse himself from any.
It's not about the vote. It's about doing business with your agency. He would be selling property. He's on both sides of the contract. He's the chairman of our board, and he's the seller. And so it's not about recusing yourself, not participating in the conversation. That also is a part of it. But the issue is that we would be transferring district funds to Mr. McNamee to purchase property. And so, in the most abundance of caution, I do think it would be advisable to get an ethics opinion as part of the closing, and make it conditioned on the fact that the Ethics Commission is comfortable with the transaction. That's a pattern that we've seen other local governments engage in. But in those other examples, they typically have a third-party realtor or appraiser who does the analysis as to the uniqueness of the property and says, this is the only property that addresses the district's goal here. I mean, and I would say you have public commenters who are district residents who think this is a beneficial parcel to the district, but that needs to be sort of articulated as to what is the reason that the district should purchase this, and then there should be some third-party analysis here. I'm saying this as, this is advice. I don't know that you need, I'm trying to be protective of the district. I'm not trying to get in the way of any particular deal here, but I want to make sure that we're clear that there are a lot of potential regulatory issues here because of the nature of the property owner.
Okay. So that would, at this point, that would table it to our next meeting?
Well, what I would say is if this is something that you want to explore, we need to go ahead and identify the appropriate real estate professional to start that analysis.
You want a real estate or appraiser?
I think that it would be best to go for an appraiser, but I don't know that it's a problem with you.
Property appraiser is what, $350 or something? More?
Typically appraisals cost more like $2,000 to $4,000.
Really?
Whoa. I mean, I just pulled two recently, and that was what they cost. I mean, so it depends on, because we're not saying to the appraiser, tell us what this property is. We're saying to the appraiser, confirm that this property is uniquely solving the problem that we're looking for, and we need to define what that problem is. We had drafted a resolution to this point when this conversation came up last time, and so what my suggestion would be is that we would identify an appraiser, and then I would bring back to you that resolution, which includes some of the unique factors that we're talking about, and the appraisal contract, so that you could do both of those things to explore this issue. In that conversation, I would advise that Mr. McNamee would recuse himself from that discussion and vote. But it's a little wonky because we need to know that Mr. McNamee wants to sell this property to the district.
It's for sale.
It's okay. So then I guess that answers that question. But anyway, that's my recommendation. So if you would like, I can identify an appraiser and have a conversation with them with the resolution and bring both to you at the.
I do have an offer on the table for it now. I've been holding off on it because I would rather see this district have it, but if it's going to be too big of a mess, I'll just sell it to somebody else.
I don't think we should have discussion about it. It's not that this is not achievable. It's just we need to very carefully go through the steps here because, again, it's doing business with one agency. So we should be very thorough. And if the appraiser comes back and says, no, this is not the answer, then my advice would be that you could not purchase the property without violating 112.
Yeah, I make a motion at that point that we move forward.
I'll second that motion.
Coming forward with what? Appraisal?
With getting someone to write an opinion on whether we should go with that or not.
Well, do we have a reason?
To control what happens to the property.
Well, for now, if it's something you're interested in, we should move forward. If it's something you'd rather not, then we shouldn't spend any money.
Well, I need to know the reason. I mean, that's like gonna be a legally valid reason, just not that we're gonna control what goes in there. You know, I don't know if that's gonna float. You know what I mean?
Could I make it? As a public person here.
You'll hold it a second. Let's finish the board's
In response to some of what I'm hearing in this particular.
I understand that, but let's conclude the board discussion, and then if the chair wants to recognize you, we can.
Okay.
I guess just to be clear, what I'm hearing in the motion is not that it would be simply for me to identify the appraiser and come back with the appraiser's estimated costs and a draft resolution that articulates what I believe to be the unique factors.
Okay, so, all right, so
I've
we're
written
not
that back.
authorizing the money yet.
No money is being spent, and the process isn't actually stepping forward. It's just, I need to get certain pieces in play so that you guys can know, get the information that you need. And you'll see, so that in the resolution, you'll confirm at the meeting that is why you need this property specifically.
I think
yeah, okay with that.
I really dragged it out though.
It drags it out, but I mean, you could authorize me to hire the appraiser now. I just don't know. I don't know what the appraiser is going to charge. I can't sit here and tell you what that number is.
Well, you said 2 to 4.
That's my guess, but I don't know.
Excuse me, I'd like to interject again before decision is made.
You gotta wait till the comment.
Okay.
Can we set a limit and just say up to this much amount for appraiser, or where he wants to do it for that?
I guess excuse me. My concern is that until you see that resolution, I haven't confirmed what the unique factors that you're looking for are, and so it's hard for me to tell. The appraiser can't go do the work because he doesn't know what he's trying to do. And so while I believe that obviously this is very wonky and drawn out, I'm not sure how else to do it.
Appropriate time, I'd like to request permission to speak.
It's up to you, Chairman, if you want to let the public get in before we make a decision.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the public. Just
Okay.
a little bit. I just want to see where this is going.
Come on.
Ron would be first.
I want to comment, this has been under discussion at the board.
Could you give us your name?
Ron Westerman, 285 Case Drive. I'm at the entrance, just down the road from where this property sits. It very much concerns me as what's going to happen there. I see nothing different about this property than the other property that CID bought across the street. This has been under discussion for months on end, and drug out to a point that I can't believe that you can drag it out this far. As for what the property does for the value of our homes, it's a lot. And to have the board be able to make a decision as to what's going to go on that piece of property and decide whether it needs to be sold for that particular purpose, because it is commercial. We could get things there that we don't really care to have. We're all aware of that. That's why different people came in here to discuss and to promote that we do something with this property, and they came here today specifically for that purpose. Okay, and to put it off and put it off and put it off again, when you've been well aware that this has been ongoing, and this discussion about legality should have taken place and should have been done, and I don't know why it hasn't been, because the discussion has been there. Again, you're putting it off, from my estimation, what I'm seeing today. I can't say I'm happy about it, and I know a lot of other people here are not happy about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ron.
I'd just like to interject there. I think this isn't any different than, this is new information that we're getting legally from our legal advice. To me, it's the
May I
same as
speak?
EA dropping that out.
He told us the same thing last time we brought it up.
That's true.
Frank?
He said he was going to have the meeting with the Ethics Committee in March, which is March now.
Who was next? Was that Olmos?
I believe, just for clarification on that point,
not there anymore.
I believe that there was no board direction provided at a board meeting to
May I please speak?
I'm just answering a question really quick. Because I think this is the point. We have been aware that this is something that the board would like to consider, but it has not come to a board meeting and direction has not been given. At least that's my, and Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe this has been discussed at a board meeting. I think there's been discussions about it, but I need direction. And if I'm getting direction, then we'll go do it. If I'm not getting direction, then we won't go do it.
Go ahead, Frank.
May I please speak?
Go for Frank.
Frankly, 275 K's Drive. I'm somewhat disappointed in what I'm hearing tonight, and I very clearly recall when the matter was suggested it had to go to the Ethics Commission. And what we were told was that the attorney would pursue that, and he was going to contact the Ethics Commission. And specifically, sir, when you say you were not told to go forward, you told us that they could not meet again until March. I checked the agenda, it was never scheduled. So I think we have a different recollection, but I believe you told us that it had to wait until the March meeting and that was going to take place. Number two, I appreciate your wise counsel, sir, and I certainly would have to defer to your expertise. However, you never mentioned an appraisal, which is another action, as part of the process. Never. There was no need for an appraisal when you advised this board in that meeting. And I'm not trying to be argumentative, and I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm very disappointed, and I thank you.
And I guess just for clarification, I was not at that meeting. Tony was at the meeting. But I am aware, I did get some information from him after that meeting about the general process. And I will go back and look at the minutes, but it was not my understanding that there was board direction to move forward. And if there is...
So let's just do it.
Another comment.
Well, excuse me, may I respond to that, please? Just please?
Yes,
The gentleman says he wasn't at the meeting. I must be sicker than I think I am, because as I recall, he stopped the process and said, I need to address the board, and stopped the board from going forward. I believe that's what happened. Maybe I'm totally mistaken.
Hope you feel better, Frank. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I think Ken Riga was next.
Yeah, see if Ramos wants to talk. He's
Yeah,
actually
there was a Ramos waiting quite a while. Are you still there? Ramos, whatever.
Come on up, Ken.
Must be gone.
Yeah, they may have just inadvertently commented, Dave, earlier with the open mic.
I may be wrong, but it's my understanding that the property is up for sale. And if the CID wants to purchase the property, now is the opportunity. If you wait, it's going to be sold to someone else, and the opportunity is gone by. So now is the time to take advantage of the situation. And that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
I may be wrong, but I believe that's what I've been doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So, why don't we make a motion?
I would see
Steve, I like your, John Thorman, Orchid Cove. I like your suggestion about having a representative from each HOA here at the meeting. We've got a whole table full of them over here. Because of the last meeting, it was brought up about purchasing the property over here behind where Lindsay Case is. So during our HOA meeting, we had a vote. We said, hey, who is interested in buying that property? And nobody raised their hand. So all of Orchid Cove has zero interest in buying that property over here by Lindsay Case's property. Secondly, the property that was purchased, we had no interest in, but it went through. And now this new piece of property, we have no interest in. CID has been set up to handle the water, the sewer. It's not in the real estate business. Our money, from what I understand, there's $9 million worth of infrastructure that we need to do. And I appreciate Mitch saying that the water is working great. In fact, I drink the tap water myself. I think it's fantastic. In fact, from what I understand, 2 miles of pipe going out brings in the fresh water. But we have no interest in buying property. We don't want to be a part of it. If the folks here want the property, they can assess their they're homeowners and purchase it. But Orchid Cove has no interest in property or in building a community center or a clubhouse for Stella Maris. That's all I can say.
Okay, one quick question. Is it my understanding that you folks have been trying to get the vacant lots in Orchid Cove from the county?
That was brought up. We have this piece of property over here, $70,000. We voted against that too. Nobody's going to build anything there. It's just going to stay right the way it is.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm sorry.
Was it voted on? Or?
No, it was not.
Okay, but that's still available for 70 grand.
That's a different story. When you're done, I'll be happy to answer the question.
Hang on a minute. So here's where I was going with this. It was my understanding that the folks from Orchid Cove were going to try to buy those vacant properties, and so that they could keep those as green space and not be built on. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, so basically what you'd be looking to do is take property, taxable property, and make it so that it will never bring in any assessments. So that in fact then, by losing those potential assessments, gets the rest of the community to pay for the green space here.
No.
No?
Yeah, that's 44 units.
No.
I'm going to
It's
defer
not
to
44
Steve.
units.
Our treasurer, Steve.
Thank you.
I'm a board member. I've been following this for years. And there's a lot of misconceptions about it, Mr. Kish.
You got 11 units. You got 11 spaces up there. That's 44 units.
Let me be clear what it is. There is 7 buildings along the lake. That is called phase 2. There are covenants on it, that's 28 units.
Yeah.
That is not being touched. It is not financially viable to build those at this time. It hasn't been for the last 18 years since the original building here. That's why those haven't been built. Do you understand that?
No, I don't understand why they're not viable.
Because for a builder to build them, it costs them a certain amount, and then they have to be able to sell it for more than it costs them to build it.
Like every other house.
Right now, you can't sell them for more than it costs to build it. Do you understand that?
So, Steve, you also have property on the opposite side of the street.
That's right. And there's a potential for 4 buildings there. And those do not have covenants on them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So that's a total of 16 units. 4 buildings, 4 units per building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
How many are on the lake, Steve?
7 buildings, 4 units per building.
28.
That's phase 2. So let's get the facts down here straight before we start.
Let's just take the,
I'm fine.
take it down.
I'm fine.
Okay.
No, I just,
All right, I understand.
Let's see if there's any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor.
so, I don't know how we got into this from, yeah.
Okay, so the first guy brought it up.
Talking about land.
No, Steve brought it
Well,
up.
they're just came in because.
We weren't asking the CID to buy that property. Are we?
No, you take,
Okay.
here's my position is, if that land was sold to someone else and it's developed, it would get put on our assessment or tax rolls, right?
Potentially. It might never be viable to build that. It might not be.
Okay, let's just move on.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Motion on the floor can either be voted on or withdrawn.
What's the
I
motion?
made the motion that we would move forward with the analysis, third-party analysis, and the letter that Jack.
Yes, the determination that it's a sole source, it qualifies as sole source procurement. And then, so that, the motion is that I am basically going to bring back documents, so no cost is being spent other than attorney time to generate the initial piece of this. So it's not the appraisal, because I don't know the scope of the appraisal, and I'll bring it back.
So you made the motion?
I think he wants to get it done. You want to get it done, right? We want the appraisal.
Can't be
Well, I
done.
was looking for a way that we could make that process go quicker than
And
2
I
months
guess-
by the time we bring back the letter and we approve it, and it's kind of unwanted to take place, if something happened.
And I want to clarify, I'm giving legal advice, I'm trying to get protective legal advice. If you
Right.
don't want to
We
listen to my
appreciate
advice,
that.
you know,
We understand what you're saying.
No, I know, I'm just making it clear, because I know there's some energy on this, and I want to, you don't have to And again, it's not just for the board, it's for Mr. McNamee personally, that it's not a normal transaction. If this was just a piece of property listed for sale in the district, none of us, you could make a totally different approach, and you may even be able to extend an offer in the same meeting that you thought about it, potentially. But that's not the situation here. And I'm gonna go back through the minutes myself personally to see what kind of direction was provided, and if there was any way in which our firm delayed this, I will do everything I can to rectify that. But I don't believe that was the case, and so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, is there going to be a second, or?
We had a second.
Yeah.
Mr. Truckee and Mr. Baird made a second.
Go ahead and call the vote. I'll abstain from the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any other supervisor requests?
Right before the meeting, I was given a thing here, where the boats were removed from the parking lot over on the marina there. Now I guess cars are starting to be parked there, and they were wondering if that could be addressed. Because there's a sign every 5 feet there of no parking, and they're doing it now, but yeah, I don't know. If somebody wants to call the county and talk to them about it, but otherwise.
I'll call. Maybe that after the meeting is over. We've got a pretty good relationship with code enforcement.
Okay, all good. That's what I have.
Any other supervisor requests? Final public comment.
Well, go ahead.
Thanks, Ron. Debbie Van Wert, I live on Keys Drive. I am really concerned about the speed that people are driving along Keys Drive. I personally have stopped, not the mailman, some other mail guy, and with the crabby old lady and read them out, because these trucks are, yesterday the garbage truck went through there, and I swear he was going 35. And we have a lot of walkers and a lot of bikers. So I don't know if we need to get a law enforcement officer out there, or we should put in berms. That's, speed bumps. That would be my suggestion. But whatever,
I agree with you. In the last 3 weeks myself, I stopped a FedEx truck with my car because they passed me. I was coming back from down by your house.
I've been passed before.
And the FedEx truck pulled around and shot around me on that street. They actually passed me on the street, and I got the license number. When they came back the next day, I talked with the lady that drives that FedEx truck, and she was very, very snippy. Okay? And then she just tried to drive away when I was trying to talk to her about it. Secondly, there was a gentleman that came in it was a little black car. He was a little larger gentleman. And I went like this to him when we were walking with some grandkids. I just went like this, slow down.
he gave you a greeting, huh?
And he stopped his car, got out, and started walking towards me. I thought we were gonna have a confrontation right on the street. I agree with you that they travel too fast on Case Drive.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You don't see that on Newport. And it may be because it's a split road or because.
Neil, you handle this in other communities.
Yeah, I've got 2 other clients and a third, and you can hire off-duty sheriff deputies, 4-hour minimums. They'll report to me by text when they're on the property, when they leave the property, and the number of traffic stops that they make.
Is there a date or a time that we should focus on if we were to do this?
Garbage truck is Monday and Thursday, right?
Yeah, that's where it starts, yeah.
I'll tell you in advance that 70% of the people that get pulled over for either a warning or a citation are residents.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always that way.
But it might just take a one-time deal to bring awareness to it. Is that something that we want to spend money on?
How much money are we talking?
Well, wait a second. The first thing that usually happens in these situations is they come out with one of those trailers with the flashing.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
The flashing lights, and that always makes everyone look down and be conscious, at least be conscious of the speed that you're going. Doesn't mean you change your speed. But for most people, I think it makes you conscious and you slow down a little bit when that light.
We do that too, but if
That's free.
The sheriff, as a rule, is not going to enforce traffic matters in residential areas. He's got better things to do on arterial highways, but 4-hour minimum, I think it's $75 an hour, but for that you get a sworn armed sheriff's deputy and a cruiser, and they're steady pulling them over.
Trouble with it is, we got 3 areas.
Well, you're gonna have him here for 4 hours, minimum, and.
Whatever you guys want to do, let's make a
It needs
decision.
to be in the afternoon, because the sheriff, following the Parkland school shooting, in Broward County, he has to put sheriff deputies in every school in the county now. And so, special duty, details like that are not available until school dismissal. So it's late afternoon, early evening, or Saturday and Sundays.
Go ahead, Ron.
One comment, I don't know that we have a speed limit sign.
Need your name again.
Ron Westerman, 285 Case Drive. I don't know that we have a speed limit sign, so let's go easy and make
Do
a
we
good
not?
sign in.
Yeah, there's 25.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Is there one there?
Yeah, I think there is. But maybe we should put a little flag on it or something. You know what, I don't know. It's, some people are just aren't gonna care.
In a minute, I'm gonna make a motion that we start with the flashy signs and maybe some flags on the speed sign and start with that.
Yeah, the little solar, trailer mounted radar sign is free. The sheriff owns about a half a dozen of them now. We'll just need to schedule and have it brought in.
Let's
here.
do that. That sounds like a good
That's a
start.
plan? Okay, one other comment. I've noticed that the ambulance that was kept at our fire station has moved back to Everglades City.
Really?
Yes.
That's disappointing.
We do not have one now. I haven't seen it, and I talked with the fire department. They said it's been moved back to Everglades City. So we don't have an ambulance here. We do not have
Well, when we get together with Mr. LaCastro on our berms, we could discuss that as well.
Because I think that we have a community that needs one here.
Okay, I agree with you. Thank
For
you.
the taxes we pay, Ron, we pay almost 3 times what they pay in the rest of Naples.
Right, and not having an ambulance here, we're waiting for something to come from Naples or something to come from Everglades City.
We are a
And that's a
larger,
bit of a time.
Port of the Islands is a larger tax district than Everglades City. We pay, Everglades City pays the same thing we do. We pay like, I think it's a little over 4, at 1.5 for most of Naples, Greater Naples, and then we pay 4, I believe, a little over 4. So we pay a lot of money to have that fire station here.
Okay, well, the fire station stays, but the ambulance is gone. After speaking with the fire department this week.
We'll find out about that.
Catherine?
Okay, thank you.
Just before we, was there a motion on that speed?
Not yet. We were gonna.
Okay.
Okay. Catherine Kellmeyer, 314 Newport Drive. I have about 3 things. The first thing is putting the 41 median back to sod. Port of the Islands doesn't have that much. The entrances don't have that much, even though some have been improved. To take that away would be detrimental to the overall appearance of the community. You've raised our taxes on the end for the boats because of the O&M, and that should cover the median. On another item, the mahogany tree on Newport Drive, I happen to have an arborist come out to look at our property, and our property butts up against that mahogany, which is between 2 Hong Kong orchid trees. And the mahogany, I'm not an arborist, I can't give you all the details, but just his visual appearance between the root system that's hooved up, the 2 trunks coming out, making a tree, the split in the tree, and also that's a tree that the power company tops off. His recommendation that mahogany tree should come out. Thank you very much.
Catherine, can I ask one quick question? You're on the board there, right?
I am on the master board treasurer for Sunset K Master. I am a CAM. I manage our 8-unit building at 314.
The property that's next to that, just to the north of that, that unimproved property there, is that part of the master association?
Are you talking right along Newport Drive?
Yeah, between what the hotel owns, and then there's
In
this.
front of where they park all the cars.
Yeah.
There's a
Building 19 is parallel to 41, and there's a retention pond there.
That's a retention pond?
That's a retention pond that's right in front of 1900, 350 Newport. And then there's parking across, up next to Newport.
So you own the retention pond or the?
No. The retention pond is owned by the Marina Condo Association, the Dock Association. That's part of their drainage is that retention pond.
The Dock Association. Okay, thank you.
Did we want to get just the vote on that?
Oh, yeah.
Before we.
Let's vote.
One other question? Hello?
Who is this?
This this is Leo Ramos, E162, part of the condo association, I guess the hotel condo. My question is, with you're thinking of purchasing the land, what exactly are you going to do with it once you purchase it? Is it just going to sit there undeveloped, or are you planning to put some kind of community center or some kind of dog track or anything, or it's just going to stay flat ground and we're just going to have this thing added to our, I guess, taxes or assessments just to have that not be developed and used for anything else? Just curious about that.
Well, Zach, you're going to get into that eventually, what it could be used for.
Yes.
I have one item that I'd like to say about that. That 1.5 acres, 1¾ acres, it has an easement through the middle of it. It's making it difficult to do a lot with it because of the easement that runs through. I think that for the Port of the Islands, that would be a perfect place to put some type of park. Maybe some playgrounds for the grandkids or whatever. Maybe some pickleball, bocce ball, whatever that the community can use there, because it's away from all bedrooms. The problem with some of our other lots is that you're right next to people's bedrooms and it gets too noisy, pickleball's noisy, gatherings of people there can be a little bit noisy, but that's kind of out front. It would keep that spot green and pretty to come into the community, and it would be a usable piece for the community to have some type of park or something to that effect there. In my opinion, it makes a better park than the piece that we currently own that might be used for some type of commercial thing or something right on 41 with the canal access. The park would be off to the side there, and I think that would be a perfect place to do something like that. That's my opinion. One of 3,000 here in Newport.
You don't want a boat repair place there? It's a perfect place for a boat repair place.
Okay,
let's try to wrap this up.
I think we have one final public comment, and in advance, your next meeting is April the 18th.
Kathy Oswald, Sunset K Lakes. I'm beating a dead horse here because obviously the board is hearing, but they're not listening. That if we take out median landscaping, which I've said 2 or 3 times to the board, my friend had stage 4 breast cancer and fought for that landscaping. And we now have a memorial of all the time that she put into it. Before we had that put in, we had mud and silt that came across the roadway, and yes, there was grass, but the mud and the silt came up from the grass when we had the rainy season, and it made it very dangerous to try to make a left-hand turn out of Newport onto 41. I had many times my rear wheels just spun before they picked up. If you do go with the grass, I respectfully ask you to take her memorial down, because she would roll over in her grave if she knew that it was going back to the garbage that was there 25 years ago. Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to ask is for you to take down the MI Homes site off of the website. Thank you very much.
Okay, we had a motion.
We're trying to get out of here. It's important. Sometimes these turn into free-for-alls, and we end up talking about things that are none of our business.
Mine's easy that I could get with you after the meeting. I'm Tim Estock, 25090 Peacock Lane. Hey, I've been looking at your website and that. I'm trying to find your charter, trying to understand how the CID interfaces with the county and trying to find that charter or articles and bylaws that will
Yeah,
govern.
if you look on the website, there's a copy of the enabling ordinance that created this district, and there's also a reference and a link to Chapter 190 of the Florida statutes that govern everything and anything that we can do. That'd be the best place to.
And that's on the website?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. All right, at this time,
One is for Deb.
Just one.
Real quick, Deb, please.
Deborah Jansen, Sunrise Cake. Just a question for past due customers. I'm glad you're putting this on the site. And I looked, and one of these units is mine that I'm renting, and I did not realize that the person is past due. So my question is, is there the option of the owner or the tenant to be on the Muna billing list for payment? And then the other part of the question is, how long would a person be past due? How many months before their water is actually shut off?
The policy, again, that dictates what I can do is on the website. I cannot shut anybody's water off if the balance is less than one billing cycle. So if you get a $200 bill every month and the amount due that is, delinquent is only $90, I can't shut the water off. It's got to be more than what an average 2-month bill for that property is.
Okay.
The other question, we can go either way in terms of the entity, but typically most owners require their tenants to have and pay their own water bill, is our experience.
Okay.
You don't have to, but most seem to put the burden on that for the tenant.
Yeah, is that a past tenant or a current tenant?
Current, and I've spoken with him, we'll get it resolved, not a problem, but he sort of ignores bills or ignores little signs on the doorstep and stuff.
Yeah, he shut off, continues.
I've spoken with him, he'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to make that motion if we can, that we talk to the sheriff's department for signs and flags or something on the existing signs. Let's call it the three-step. Try that first year, and we can't get a deputy anyway till after school, so.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we try the three-step first and see how that works.
I'd like to second that motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming, guys.